Chapter 1302. Right then, more than 10 tall black figures suddenly charged into the battlefield. They emitted a foul stench and had menacing expressions, covered in long hair. Although the figures were in human form, they could no longer be considered as humans. To be precise, they were more than 10 battle corpses. Corpse refinement cult, one of the 5 heretical doctrines, had attacked. 3 conjoint body mighty figures of corpse refinement cult stood outside the battlefield and controlled more than 10 terrifying battle corpses to attack Su Zimo's 3 supreme dharma characteristics continuously. Those battle corpses were not ordinary corpses. Instead, they were refined from the bodies of fallen mighty figures, and their flesh and bones were incomparably powerful. Coupled with the secret skills of corpse refinement cult, the battle corpses were invulnerable to weapons, fire and water. Although they could not release dermic arts, every single battle corpse carried intense corpse poison and was filled with filthy qi. A single strand of hair from the battle corpse could easily poison a Dharma Daojun to death. The most frightening thing was that the battle corpses did not feel pain or fear. The other conjoint body mighty figures were still wary against Su Zimo's supreme Dharma characteristics and clashed with dermic arts and weapons. However, these battle corpses were completely unscrupulous as they charged forward recklessly. Even though they were repelled by the supreme Dharma characteristics and had their sternum shattered, they were oblivious and charged forward once more to fight the supreme Dharma characteristics time and time again. Those battle corpses would not die unless they were reduced to ashes. They were practically immortal. The body of the sovereign celestial appearance was also inevitably stained with a lot of filthy pus, and its radiance was obviously much dimmer. Against the attacks of many conjoint body mighty figures, the power of the supreme Dharma characteristics was depleted rapidly. Haha! When the mighty figure of Chaos Essence sect saw that the outcome was set, he could not help but laugh. Araki Takashi, let's see how long more your 3 supreme Dharma characteristics can last. Fellow Taoists, this lad is already at his wit's end. Today is the day to kill Araki Takashi. A mighty figure of Heavenly Dipper sect shouted as well. Many mighty figures responded and were invigorated, their attacks becoming even more ferocious. Sigh, Araki Takashi is still defeated in the end. 3 supreme Dharma idols. Such a monstrous genius who has shocked both the past and the present still couldn't escape the fate of being suppressed. The crowd sighed with emotion. The great battle between Extreme Fire and Purple Flame had yet to determine a victor. Although Extreme Fire had already gained control of the situation with his unparalleled fire-taming skills, Purple Flame's dermic powers were robust, and it was difficult for Extreme Fire to suppress him completely within a short period of time. Seeing Su Zimo's predicament and danger, Extreme Fire grew increasingly anxious. Soaring snake burning god. Hakodojin roared angrily. His divine sense condensed, and a burning flying serpent drilled out from between his eyebrows and rushed towards Xian. Hakodojin had conjured an essence spirit secret skill. It was clear how anxious he was. Xian's expression changed. The soaring serpent flaming spirit was an essence spirit secret skill of the Scarlet Flame Mental Sutra. Ordinary essence spirit secret skills could not defend against it at all. A bloody light suddenly flashed between Purple Flame's eyebrows. A blood-colored saber tore through the air, emitting an extremely evil aura as it slashed towards the incoming flying serpent. The 2 essence spirit secret skills collided silently. However, an extremely terrifying spirit consciousness fluctuation spread out. As for Extreme Fire, a look of shock flashed through his face. As though he recalled something, he exclaimed, "Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. You actually learned the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra." The Blood Saber was an essence spirit secret skill of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra and was recognized by Extreme Fire. Instantly, Extreme Fire understood why Purple Flame's cultivation had not only recovered from his injuries in a short few decades, but also increased tremendously. The source of everything was the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. That fiend technique was way too terrifying. Back when the Blood Demon Tao Lord appeared out of nowhere, although he was only at the Dharma characteristic realm, The impact and fear he caused to the entire cultivation world was something that even conjoint body mighty figures and Mahayana patriarchs could not compare to. Hee. Purple Flame did not refute and grinned. Extreme Fire, you're the only one who has opportunities, but I'm not allowed to have any? Absorb. Purple Flame channeled the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, and his eyes shone with a sanguine light as he prepared to absorb the endless bloodline that was scattered on the battlefield. Extreme Fire's heart sank. He was once by Su Zimo's side and knew the power of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra very well. If Purple Flame were to absorb the bloodline on the battlefield, his strength would recover within a short period of time, and there was even a high chance that he could break through his cultivation realm. Right now, most of the bloodlines scattered on the battlefield were the bloodlines of mighty figures. A single drop of blood of a mighty figure contained an unimaginable amount of energy. Right then, Heavenly Secrets, who was initially fighting with Shura, noticed this and retracted his smile. He glared at Purple Flame with killing intent in his eyes. All of a sudden, Purple Flame's expression changed. He had just channeled the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra and merely absorbed a few wisps of bloodline when it was forcefully severed by a power. Suddenly, he could not sense the bloodline on the battlefield, as though it was blocked by some power. Although Extreme Fire did not know what happened to Purple Flame, he realized that it was an opportunity and attacked without hesitation. Samadhi Dao Fire. Extreme Fire released the strongest dermic art of the Scarlet Flame Mental Sutra right away. Using essence, chi and spirit as Samadhi, Extreme Fire condensed a Scarlet Dao Fire that descended above Purple Flame's head instantly. Purple Flame roared and channeled the dermic powers in his body hurriedly, conjuring a sinister hellfire to defend against it. However, there was no way the power of hellfire alone could defend against the Samadhi Dao Fire. As soon as the two types of flames clashed, the victor was decided. Purple Flame's clothes began to burn. Before long, his fur burst into flames as well. When he saw that, the killing intent in Heavenly Secrets' eyes gradually disappeared. Heavenly Secrets frowned slightly with a confused expression. On the other side, a mighty figure of Poison Sect was not involved and had a clearer view of the situation. He declared loudly, "Everyone, the victor is about to be decided on Extreme Fire's side. If you guys can't kill that lad now, it'll be even more difficult when Extreme Fire attacks. Why don't I poison this beast to death first?" The mighty figure of Poison Sect said sinisterly. "How dare you?" When he heard that, Su Zimo hollered. The current situation was getting more and more dangerous. The experts of the primordial 6 races had yet to appear, and the longer this dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. He had to rescue Night Spirit as soon as possible. However, he could not break through the defenses of many mighty figures with just 3 supreme Dharma characteristics, let alone approach Night Spirit and rescue him. Why wouldn't I dare? You're just a puny Dao Lord and you can't even protect yourself. How dare you threaten me? The mighty figure of Poison Sect walked towards Night Spirit and sneered. How dare you heretical sects provoke me? I'll bury all of you here today without returning. Killing intent surged in Su Zimo's eyes as he said slowly, Dharma characteristics, fuse, condense, sush. The bodies of the 3 supreme celestial bodies suddenly ignited with raging flames. The thunder dermic body burned with scarlet flames. The Rulai dermic body burned with golden flames. The heavenly fiend dermic body burned with black flames. The filth on the 3 supreme Dharma bodies burned rapidly and dissipated, causing their dermic powers to become incomparably pure once more. The 3 supreme Dharma bodies moved at the same time. Guided by the power of flames, they fused together rapidly and disappeared, forming a gigantic fireball that burned furiously with a torrential blaze. Chapter 1303. Dharma Characteristic Fusion? What's going on? Where are Araki Takashi's 3 supreme Dharma characteristics? Where did they go? Many conjoint body mighty figures widened their eyes in bewilderment. Su Zimo's 3 supreme Dharma characteristics had already vanished completely, leaving only a gigantic fireball floating on the spot. Immediately after, under countless gazes, The gigantic fireball expanded slowly and a figure rose rapidly within with an unstoppable aura. Even the firmaments could not suppress his torrential aura. Even the ground could not withstand his massive body. That figure was like an immortal king that had awakened from the flames or a god that was born from the flames. In the heavens and earth, he reigned supreme and suppressed the surroundings with a terrifying aura. Even the surrounding conjoint body mighty figures felt their hearts skip a beat when they saw that aura. What's that? The expressions of the experts of the primordial 6 races who were initially watching changed starkly. The Golden Crow Third Prince was shocked and stood up with a bang, exclaiming. The other experts of the primordial races had grim expressions as well as they stared fixedly at the figure with wary expressions. Some of the experts of the primordial races even revealed a hint of fear in the depths of their eyes. The figure rose and grew continuously. In the blink of an eye, it was already 90 feet tall. I've got it. A mighty figure of the heavenly eye race narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, Tao Lord Araki Takeshi has fused 3 supreme Dharma characteristics. He wants to condense a brand new heaven and earth Dharma characteristic and break through the shackles of the extreme realm. Break through the extreme realm. The other experts of the primordial races shuddered. That's impossible. God Han Ling shook his head. 9 is the extreme number and 90 feet of a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic is considered a supreme. Throughout history, no one has been able to surpass the extreme realm and condense a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic that is more than 90 feet tall. 9 was the extreme number and was like an unshakable great Tao of heaven and earth. It was like a heavenly chasm that could not be crossed. At the Foundation Establishment realm, 9 Meridian Foundation Establishment was known as the Extreme Foundation Establishment realm and was already the limit. It was heaven-defying to break through the shackles of such a great Tao. Not necessarily. The mighty figure of the Bloodvine race said slowly, the power of fusing 3 supreme Dharma characteristics is way too strong. It might truly be able to surpass the extreme realm. Boom. The moment the mighty figure of the Bloodvine race said that, the 90 feet tall heaven and earth Dharma characteristic grew once more to a height of 91 feet. Kakaka. A series of cracking sounds echoed from the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. It was as though it had broken free from the shackles of the great Tao and its aura turned even more berserk. The crowd of cultivators paled in shock. They had personally witnessed an earth-shattering scene. In this lifetime, a cultivator broke through the restraints of the great Tao and condensed a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic that surpassed a 90 feet supreme. Boom. Another deafening sound echoed from the body of the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. In the blink of an eye, it grew another foot. 92 zhang. Boom. 93 zhang. Boom. 94 zhang. With every inch it grew, the aura of the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic would grow stronger. Under countless shocked gazes, this heaven and earth Dharma characteristic grew to a height of 99 feet before it finally stopped. 99 feet, the pinnacle of the pinnacle. The heaven and earth Dharma characteristic burned with raging flames and stood in flames. It had 3 heads and 6 arms and wielded a lightning whip, a heavenly fiend scythe and a creation lotus platform. It was like a fiend god that fought against the heavens. The entire heaven and earth valley seemed to have gone silent. It was as though all the cultivators, even the experts of the primordial 6 races, were stunned by the aura of the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic and fell silent. Su Zimo looked at the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic with a calm expression. For the past 100 years, apart from the advancement of his cultivation, his greatest gain was the possibility of fusing 3 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. He had once thought that a 90 feet supreme might not be the limit of a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. Although it had not been done before, it did not mean that it was impossible. However, if he wanted to surpass the extreme realm and supreme realm, he had to be supported by immense strength. Even with his talent and cultivation, he had only managed to condense 3 supreme Dharma characteristics despite obtaining so many opportunities. It was the same for Monk Daming of the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple. Monk Daming had heaven-defying combat strength and was the strongest opponent Su Zimo had encountered up till this point of his cultivation. Furthermore, he had condensed 4 supreme Dharma characteristics and was even stronger than him. However, be it him or Monk Daming, neither of them could condense a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic that surpassed a 90 feet supreme. Therefore, Su Zimo guessed that normal cultivation would not be able to break through the shackles of the extreme realm. If he wanted to break through the shackles, he had to find another way. The fusion of Dharma characteristics was one of the possibilities. However, Su Zimo's 3 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics came from different Tao sects of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend sects respectively. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to fuse them. He had to find a compatibility point, or rather, a commonality between the 3 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. That commonality was flames. Su Zimo had once cultivated the Scarlet Flame Heart Sutra and condensed 3 Tao fires of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend sections. Using the 3 Tao fires as a guide, he fused and incinerated the 3 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. Bathed in flames, he condensed a new Dharma characteristic, the 99 feet tall heaven and earth Dharma characteristic that he was currently using. How dare a bunch of rotting corpses provoke me? Su Zimo looked at the dozens of battle corpses not far away and hollered, "Burn!" The 3 heads opened their mouths at the same time and spat out 3 balls of scorching flames towards the battle corpses. Not only was the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic the fusion of 3 supreme Dharma characteristics, it was also fused with 3 Tao fires. The flames that were spat out were the Samadhi Tao fires. Su Zimo's glabella shone and another essence spirit fire burst forth, entering the Samadhi Tao fires. The Kacharati Tao fire descended into the mortal world and swept in all directions, engulfing the dozens of battle corpses instantly. Prior to this, even though the battle corpses were battered and riddled with holes by Su Zimo's supreme Dharma characteristics, they still possessed combat strength. They did not know fatigue or pain and charged forward continuously. The battle corpses did not have sentience and even Buddhist Dharma could not expiate them. However, the battle corpses seemed to be in immense pain when they were engulfed by the Kacharati Tao fire as they struggled and roared repeatedly on the spot. The battle corpses were invulnerable to weapons, fire and water. Even extreme fire's Samadhi Tao fire could not incinerate the battle corpses. However, Su Zimo's Kacharati Tao fire was different. Pus and blood flowed continuously from the bodies of the battle corpses. However, the moment it flowed out, it was burned to ashes by the Kacharati Tao fire. No matter how the battle corpses struggled, the Tao fire on their bodies could not be extinguished. In less than 10 breaths, the dozens of battle corpses were reduced to ashes and dissipated into the world. The 3 corpse refinement cult mighty figures who were controlling the battle corpses were pale. Up till this point of their cultivation, all their efforts were on the battle corpses. Now that they were burned to ashes by Su Zimo, it was equivalent to destroying more than 10,000 years of their cultivation. The blow was way too great. After losing their battle corpses, the combat strength of corpse refinement cult mighty figures was greatly reduced and they were no different from ordinary conjoint body mighty figures. Su Zimo's heaven and earth Dharma characteristic swung the thunder whip in its hands and lashed it forward viciously. The whip seemed to have crossed the voids and struck the 3 corpse refinement cult mighty figures. Not only did the whip contain the terrifying power of thunder, there was also the Kacharati Tao fire. Instantly, the 3 corpse refinement cult mighty figures were torn into pieces and their essence spirits were burned to ashes in midair. Chapter 1304. More than 10 battle corpses were burned to ashes and some conjoint body mighty figures who could not dodge in time and were swept into the Kacharati Tao fire were not spared. In a few breaths, they were burned into nothingness by the Kacharati Tao fire and their essence spirits were destroyed. Many mighty figures were shocked and retreated instinctively. With a single thought, Su Zimo's heaven and earth Dharma characteristic strode towards the night spirit with him following closely behind. The moment a mighty figure of Zephyr Thunder Palace in front of him summoned his dermic weapon, the heavenly fiend's scythe slashed down. Clang! Sparks flew when the heavenly fiend's scythe collided with the dermic weapon. The mighty figure of Zephyr Thunder Palace shuddered, and the sound of bones and tendons cracking could be heard from his body as his arms collapsed before long. In terms of strength, a 99 feet tall heaven and earth Dharma characteristic was more than a single level higher than a supreme Dharma characteristic. Initially, the combined forces of many conjoint body mighty figures could restrain Su Zimo on the spot and suppress the three supreme Dharma characteristics firmly. However, the fusion of Dharma characteristics to form a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic that surpassed the extreme realm was already above the conjoint body realm. Exclamation point! The heavenly fiend scythe slashed down and the mighty figure of Zephyr Thunder Palace was split into two. His essence spirit was destroyed and he died. A mighty figure of Diamond Monastery made use of his powerful physique and shocking bloodline to wield an indestructible diamond staff to stop Su Zimo in his tracks. Su Zimo's Dharma characteristic wielded the Creation Lotus platform and smashed it down on the head of the mighty figure of Diamond Monastery. Boom! The Creation Lotus platform collided with the diamond staff with a deafening bang. Ah! The mighty figure of Diamond Monastery cried out in pain and his palm was torn apart as blood gushed out and the diamond staff flew out of his hands. The mighty figure of Diamond Monastery wanted to retreat, but Su Zimo's Dharma characteristic was a step faster. He chanted Sanskrit and the Creation Lotus platform smashed down, smashing him into pieces with blood splattering on the spot. At the same time, the other arm of the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic danced and brandished a lightning whip that burned with flames, whipping another conjoint body mighty figure. The conjoint body mighty figure was whipped to death and his essence spirit was destroyed. The 99 feet tall heaven and earth Dharma form unleashed an unimaginably terrifying combat power. Even the mighty figures from the various super sects could not stop its murderous footsteps. He was simply an invincible supreme fiend god that could stir up a storm. Wherever it passed, many mighty figures were thrown off their feet. Fresh blood dyed half the sky red. The blood of the mighty figures was incomparably tragic. One figure after another fell from the sky. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 conjoint body mighty figures died in the hands of Su Zimo's heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. The heaven and earth valley was dyed red with blood. Noticing this, the smile on Tianji's face deepened. What are you laughing at? Seeing the smile on Heavenly Fortune's face, the hatred in Yenbeichen's heart grew even more violent and intense, as if he had returned to the moment when he died in the bamboo forest of the central continent. If not for the person before him, their whereabouts would never have been exposed. If it weren't for the person in front of him, Pian Ran wouldn't have died. Since you're the one who jumped out, I'll kill you first. The fiend chi on Yenbeichen's body intensified and the hatred fiend saber buzzed. His aura rose once more and endless pitch-black saber shadows burst forth towards Heavenly Fortune. Amidst this endless hatred, there was also a biting cold murderous intent. Heavenly Fortune was alarmed. It was no wonder why the Hatred Sutra was the #1 fiend technique of the ancient era. The stronger the hatred in one's heart, the more terrifying the hatred fiend chi would be and the stronger one's combat strength would be. Furthermore, Yenbeichen's burst this time round was not only accompanied by the hatred fiend technique, but also the power of the Shura. The fusion of the two fiend cultivation techniques formed a powerful saber intent that coexisted with hatred and killing that enveloped Heavenly Fortune within. Initially, Heavenly Fortune could still deal with Yenbeichen. However, after Yenbeichen's attack, Heavenly Fortune felt his scalp tingle, and he felt as though a calamity was imminent. Not good. Heavenly Fortune retracted his smile and his expression darkened. This saber intent is too strong. I can't fight it head-on. Heavenly Fortune could sense that the power of the saber intent had already surpassed the scope of the conjoint body realm. Annihilation fog. Heavenly Fortune hollered softly and rich dermic powers surged out of his body, forming a gray fog around him. His figure disappeared into the fog before long, as though he had entered the void and vanished. Streams of hatred fiend chi and Shura fiend chi pierced into the fog one after another. The annihilation fog seemed to have suffered an immense impact and floated outwards rapidly. The saber intents formed by the two fiend techniques of hatred and Shura were extremely terrifying and sealed off all of Heavenly Fortune's paths of retreat. Heavenly Fortune had not expected that a single smile of his would incur such intense hatred and fury from Yen Beichen. What a lunatic! Within the fog, Heavenly Fortune lost his composure and cursed internally with a scarlet glint in his eyes. The saber intent was way too strong, and even with the escape techniques of Enigma Palace, it was difficult for him to break free. All of a suddenly, a blood light flashed through the fog. In a flash, the blood light darted out through the gaps between the intertwining fiend chi and saber intents of hatred and Shura. The fog dissipated and Heavenly Fortune's figure vanished. The blood light paused in the distance and revealed its true appearance. It was Heavenly Fortune who had escaped. At that moment, Heavenly Fortune's expression was terrible and there were a few bloody wounds on his body. He looked at Yen Beichen with lingering fear. Yen Beichen's expression was cold and he did not give chase. He knew very well that given Heavenly Fortune's capabilities, it would be difficult for him to catch up within a short period of time if he made use of that escape technique. He could not let Immortal Sword escape in order to kill Heavenly Fortune. Immortal Sword had to die today. Yen Beichen turned around once more and charged toward Sword Sect. If Su Zimo could see what happened just now, he would definitely be shocked to discover that the escape technique that Heavenly Fortune released after escaping was the blood escape technique that he was extremely familiar with. Purple Flame, you betrayed the sect and harmed your fellow sect mates. Today is the day you'll be executed. On the other side, Extreme Fire hollered and channeled his essence spirit to its limits, causing the Samadhi Dao fire to burn brightly. The endless power of flames had already burned into Purple Flame's body and bloodline. Ah! Purple Flame reared his head and roared with a pained expression. He opened his mouth and spat out flames. His entire body had been burned to the point where his skin and flesh were lacerated. He was beyond recognition. This was also because Purple Flame had cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra in the past. Otherwise, he would have been burned to ashes a long time ago. However, he could not absorb the power of bloodline in this place and his dermic powers were depleted. He could no longer hold on and the Samadhi Dao fire burned from the inside out, engulfing him completely. In midair, Purple Flame's figure vanished, leaving behind a gigantic human-shaped fireball. Gradually, the fireball lost all signs of life. Then, it turned into sparks and drifted down. Extreme Fire had a conflicted expression when he saw that and did not feel the joy he had imagined. After all, Purple Flame was his senior brother. In fact, he could even recall the scenes of senior brother Purple Flame bringing him along to cultivate when he first joined 100 Refinement Sect. Who would have thought that as time passed, the two of them would gradually drift apart to the point where they were incompatible like fire and water. In the end, Purple Flame still died in his hands. Cultivation was long and the world was unpredictable. How many people could not forget their original intentions? Chapter 1305. Yen Beichen was surrounded by the two terrifying fiend chi of hatred and Shura as he charged towards Immortal Sword once more. The two terrifying fiend techniques of the Hatred Sutra and Shura Sutra were already pushed to their limits. Yen Beichen seemed to have arrived on a sea of blood with a torrential malevolent aura. Many mighty figures of Sword Sect could not defend against Yen Beichen's attack. Shura wielded the Hatred Fiend Saber and resembled an ancient fiend emperor. Many mighty figures of Sword Sect died one after another. The startling Sword Intent and lifeless Sword Intent could not defend against the sharpness of the Hatred Fiend Saber. In the blink of an eye, only more than 10 mighty figures of Sword Sect were left. Furthermore, every mighty figure of Sword Sect retreated continuously with panic and fear on their faces. Although conjoint body mighty figures had exuberant life force and could even regrow their limbs, how could they be severely injured against the Hatred Fiend Saber? All of them were dead souls. Many conjoint body mighty figures had cultivated for more than 10,000 years and did not want to die here just like that. Some mighty figures of Sword Sect turned and fled, not daring to fight against Yen Beichen anymore. Standing in the crowd, Immortal Sword panicked and looked at the unfamiliar faces around him as though he was pleading for help. Those unfamiliar faces were all mighty figures of the primordial 6 races. However, they had changed their appearances and concealed their true bodies. Right then, the experts of the primordial 6 races stood up in unison with grim expressions. "We can't watch any longer. We have to attack and kill him," God Han Ling said slowly. "That's right. If we allow him to continue growing, he'll be an unimaginable threat to us primordial races." The mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race nodded as well. "Fellow Taoists, thank you for your help. I'll definitely remember your kindness in my heart." Immortal Sword was delighted, thinking that the experts of the primordial 6 races were going to attack Yen Baichen. When he heard Immortal Sword's words, the Golden Crow Third Prince scoffed with a disdainful expression. To be honest, the primordial 6 races did not take the human cultivators present seriously at all. Even conjoint body mighty figures of the human race were not taken seriously. The Immortal Sword was famous in the cultivation world, but in the eyes of the Golden Crow Third Prince and the others, he was like an ant. Who would care about his life? "What's your name again?" The Golden Crow Third Prince reached out and patted Immortal Sword's face. "You are not qualified to call us brothers. Your life and death has nothing to do with us, ha." Immortal Sword was once a titular disciple of Sword Sect. Even if his essence spirit was injured, he was still a mighty figure. But now, he was being slapped by the Golden Crow Third Prince. Immortal Sword's smile froze. He had never suffered such humiliation since he started cultivating. If it was anyone else that dared to treat him like this, he would have fought back at the first possible moment, and he wouldn't hesitate to use any means to torture that person to death and burn their bones to ashes. However, the person in front of him was the Golden Crow Third Prince. Beside the Golden Crow Third Prince were conjoint body mighty figures of the other primordial races. If he were to show any signs of disobedience, he would be killed by the experts of the primordial 6 races before Yen Baichen could arrive. The Golden Crow Third Prince ignored him completely and left with the other experts of the primordial races before long, heading towards Su Zimo. Immortal Sword was motionless and clenched his fists tightly. His body trembled slightly and his face flushed red. Even after the primordial 6 races left, he did not say a single word and allowed the other party to trample on his dignity. Immortal Sword grit his teeth and looked at Yen Baichen, who was charging over from afar without saying a word. He knew that he could not compare to Yen Baichen at the end of the day. If they were in each other's shoes, Yen Baichen would definitely dare to attack the primordial 6 races. However, Immortal Sword did not dare to reveal any hint of displeasure. On another battlefield, Su Zimo's Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristic was invincible and invincible. No conjoint body mighty figure could stop him. The mighty figure of Poison Sect who had threatened to kill Night Spirit earlier on was scared out of his wits and retreated hurriedly. "Where do you think you're going?" Su Zimo hollered. His Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristic waved its whip and crossed the voids, whipping the mighty figure of Poison Sect instantly, tearing him into pieces and killing him on the spot. After this round of killing, Su Zimo was extremely close to Night Spirit. Su Zimo's eyes shone brightly and his thunder whip coiled, wanting to pull Night Spirit over from the ground. All of a sudden, a blood-red vine appeared, exuding an extremely evil aura. In an instant, it lashed out at the lightning whip. The power of thunder and Samadhi Dao fire burst forth instantly. The blood-colored vine constricted and its surface was charred black. However, it was not injured at its core. However, the power of the thunder whip was completely neutralized. Without hesitation, Su Zimo's 99 feet tall Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristic strode forward and swung its arm, smashing down viciously with the Creation Lotus platform. At the same time, the Heavenly Fiend Scythe descended as well. Good timing! A figure appeared in a flash and transformed into his true form. His golden hair danced and his green eyes were deep as he emanated golden blood chi. But the sound of a tsunami could be heard from within the figure's body. Tsunami blood. The figure did not use any dermic weapons and merely punched towards the Creation Lotus platform with his bare hands. The crowd was shocked when they saw that. Even mighty figure dermic weapons might not be able to defend against the power of Su Zimo's Dharma characteristic, let alone a body of flesh and blood. Boom! The creation lotus platform collided with the person's fist with a deafening bang. The figure took half a step back, but his fist was undamaged and the creation lotus platform was repelled as well. The golden-haired man flung his palm and grinned. It does hurt a little. It only hurt a little to receive the creation lotus platform with his bare hands. On the other side, the moment the heavenly fiend's scythe slashed down, it was blocked by a cold beam of light and sparks flew. A tall figure stood in midair. He had a green face and fangs, looking extremely ugly. A pair of pitch-black flesh wings grew from his back, and he wielded two crescent-shaped sabers that were shockingly curved and shone with a cold glint. The primordial races had finally appeared. Su Zimo was extremely familiar with the two primordial races that attacked at the back. The golden-haired and green-eyed one was from the Protoss lineage. The one with the green face, fangs and wings was from the Rakshasa race. As for the one that blocked his thunder whip, it was an extremely evil plant that waved countless blood-colored vines. Every vine seemed to be a thick blood vessel. At the top of the vines was a human face. It had no nose or eyes, only a bloody mouth. Inside the mouth, sharp tusks were intertwined, glittering coldly, as if they could tear and mince everything apart. Although he had never seen that primordial race before, Su Zimo could vaguely guess through that form that it should be another primordial race, the Bloodvine race. Legend has it that the Bloodvine race survived by devouring the blood of all living beings. They would not reject even the bloodlines of the other primordial races. Any living being that entered the territory of the Bloodvine race by mistake would be torn apart and devoured as nourishment. Not even their bones would be left. It was extremely savage. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he vaguely thought of something. However, at that moment, he was in a dangerous place and could not even protect himself. He could not save the night spirit either and was extremely tense. He truly did not have the mood to think carefully, and that flash of inspiration disappeared. Chapter 1306. A golden light flashed with a scorching aura. The temperature emitted by the golden light seemed to be even higher than the Samadhi Dao fire. The golden light was extremely fast and circled Su Zimo's heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. Su Zimo's Dharma characteristic waved its 6 arms but could not catch the golden light. Buzz. Buzz. Su Zimo's heaven and earth Dharma characteristic swayed and a gigantic wound appeared on its chest. Dharmic powers were draining. However, this heaven and earth Dharma characteristic had already surpassed the extreme realm and its dharmic powers were condensed. The Samadhi Dao fire burned fiercely and stopped the loss of dharmic powers instantly. The golden light paused and revealed its true appearance. It was the Golden Crow Third Prince. Hee. The Golden Crow Third Prince laughed and said, "The flames on your Dharma form are quite interesting. It's only slightly weaker than my Golden Crow fire." The Golden Crow race had the bloodline of the sun flowing through their bodies and burned with flames. They lived above the East Ocean and perched under the Fusang tree. They were divine birds of the primordial era. Not only were the Golden Crows extremely fast, they were not inferior to the Rakshasa race. They also possessed extremely terrifying golden flames that could incinerate everything. None of the conjoint body mighty figures present dared to approach Su Zimo's heaven and earth Dharma characteristic, afraid that they would be tainted by the Samadhi Dao fire. However, the Golden Crow Third Prince was not afraid at all. Not only was he close to Su Zimo's heaven and earth Dharma characteristic, he even seized the opportunity to attack and revealed his Golden Crow feet, creating a gigantic wound on the Dharma characteristic's chest. Just the 4 experts of the primordial races were enough to stop Su Zimo's heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. The bloodlines of the primordial races were powerful and they were the most ancient living beings. Conjoint body mighty figures of the primordial races were comparable to half-martial ancestors of the human race in terms of combat strength. For example, the monster incarnates of the primordial races with the purest bloodlines and strongest talent could even suppress half-martial ancestors of the human race. Although Su Zimo's heaven and earth Dharma characteristic had surpassed the extreme realm, It could not defend against the power of a half-martial ancestor. Night Spirit was 100 feet away. Normally, 100 feet would be covered in the blink of an eye. But now, there were hundreds of primordial races between them. Furthermore, dozens of them were conjoint body experts of the primordial races. This distance of 30 meters was like an insurmountable chasm. Immortal sword, pay with your life. Right at this moment, a loud shout came from not far away. In an instant, billowing demonic chi soared into the sky, covering the sky and the sun. It was pitch black like ink, and the entire world dimmed. Even the experts of the primordial 6 races were slightly surprised. Under Yen Beichen's attack, Immortal Sword's body was already covered with cuts and bruises, and his face was devoid of blood. Yen Beichen took a step forward and slashed with the Hatred Fiend's saber in his hand. It instantly landed on the head of the celestial sword. Demonic aura filled the sky as if it was going to devour the celestial sword. Ah! The immortal sword shrieked with a ferocious expression. His facial features were all twisted together. Holding the sword with both hands, the sword hummed and emitted 6 dazzling rays of mystical pattern light, blocking the Hatred Fiend's saber. Clang! The sound of metal clashing echoed in an ear-piercing manner. The saber and sword clashed. Yen Beichen and Immortal Sword did not move at all. Instantly, the world seemed to have stopped. Snap! The sword broke. Immediately after, the wounds on Immortal Sword's body ruptured and spewed out a scarlet blood mist. His eyes gradually dimmed and his life force drained rapidly. Yen Beichen's hateful slash destroyed all the life force in Immortal Sword's body. All the hatred in Yen Beichen's heart over the years was vented with that slash. Immortal Sword could not defend against it at all. Even his destiny dermic weapon was severed by the Hatred Fiend's saber. Foo-foo, foo-foo, the corners of Immortal Sword's mouth twitched as though he wanted to laugh. However, hot blood flowed out of his mouth and he let out a strange sound. Even if you kill me, why you won't be able to save that SL*T. Immortal Sword had a deranged expression as he stammered, you've lost. Ha, ha. Immortal Sword's laughter came to an abrupt end. Suddenly, his body exploded into a blood mist and his essence spirit was destroyed without a corpse. Even though Immortal Sword knew that he was going to die, he did not want to let Yen Beichen have a good time before his death. Immortal Sword was best at toying with people's hearts. Otherwise, people like Qin Pianran and Dao Lord Cloud Rain would not have died in his hands. His words before his death had indeed struck Yen Beichen's sore spot. I've lost. Although Immortal Sword was destroyed, Yen Beichen was not as happy as he imagined. His body trembled and he had a pained expression, sinking into endless guilt and self-blame. His mind seemed to be in a daze as he muttered to himself, he's right. Pianran, you can't return. It's all my fault. Foo-foo. When he saw that, the Golden Crow Third Prince scoffed. By the looks of it, there's nothing to be afraid of. He's not worth our effort at all. That's right, he's merely a second hatred. He's of no threat and will commit suicide sooner or later, the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race said indifferently. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly realized something. The Hatred Sutra was indeed powerful. Yen Beichen's combat strength had increased exponentially after inheriting the legacy of the Fiend Emperor Hatred. He could be said to be the second Fiend Emperor Hatred. However, what was the outcome of the Fiend Emperor Hatred? The deeper Yen Beichen cultivated the Hatred Sutra, the harder it was for him to extricate himself. At that moment, he would only sink into such pain and be delirious when he thought of Qin Pianran. As time passed by and he was immersed in that pain, he might never wake up and make the same choice as Dao Lord Hatred. That was suicide. Su Zimo did not dare to think about it and did not have the energy for the time being. That was the danger that Yen Beichen might encounter in the future. Right now, the most important thing for Su Zimo was to rescue Night Spirit and escape this place. Zimo, I'm here to help you. Right then, Extreme Fire had just killed Purple Flame when he sensed Su Zimo's situation and rushed over without hesitation. Master, watch out. Su Zimo's expression changed as he reminded hurriedly. Although Extreme Fire had just entered the conjoint body realm for more than 100 years, his body was fused with a supreme Dharma characteristic and his dermic powers were powerful. His combat strength was also ranked at the top of the conjoint body realm. Even against conjoint body mighty figures of super sex, Extreme Fire would not be disadvantaged. But now, the ones standing in front of Su Zimo were experts from the primordial races and their combat strength far exceeded the conjoint body realm. A mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race stood in midair motionlessly with his hands behind his back. All of a sudden, a crack split open on the glabella of the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race, as though an eye was opened. There seemed to be countless mysterious and powerful runes surging within, as though they contained the strongest power in the world. As the eye opened slowly, the entire heaven and earth valley trembled. The mountain collapsed and sand rolled down. The crowd was shocked. What sort of power was that? He could cause such a huge commotion just by opening an eye. A dark beam of light shot out from the eye and arrived instantly. The moment Extreme Fire moved, his heart skipped a beat as he sensed a strong sense of danger descending. Without hesitation, he used his destiny dermic weapon, the weapon tripod, to block in front of him. At the same time, the dark beam descended with a destructive aura. Clang! The dark beam collided with Extreme Fire's weapon tripod with a loud bang. Extreme Fire shuddered and could not control his body. He was sent flying with a pale face and spat out a mouthful of blood. The first wall of his weapon tripod was penetrated by the dark light. A single gaze was enough to penetrate Extreme Fire's destiny dermic weapon. How terrifying was the power of that eye? Chapter 1307. The reason why the Primordial 9 races were known as the Primordial 9 races and dominated the ancient times was because every single one of them possessed extremely powerful inheritances and abilities. Humans were born weak and might not be able to kill ferocious beasts even when they were in their prime. However, the Primordial 9 races were different. When these primordial races were born, they possessed many innate powerful abilities. For example, the Golden Crow race was born with 3 legs and could spread their wings to fly, controlling the sun god fire. The Golden Crow race could even slaughter spirit beasts and demons with ease, let alone ferocious beasts. Dragons were born with sharp claws and fangs and controlled the 5 elements. Every race had different abilities that they were good at. For example, the Heavenly Eye race's bloodline and physique were naturally far stronger than humans. However, they were only ranked in the middle among the Primordial 9 races. The strongest technique of the Heavenly Eye race was the eye in their glabella. That eye was also known as the Heavenly Eye and was where the strongest power of the Heavenly Eye race gathered. That was also the origin of the name of the Heavenly Eye race. The visual technique of the Heavenly Eye race was the strongest among the 10,000 races. Although it was only a dark light, it came from the Heavenly Eye. If it was any other conjoint body mighty figure, they would have died with a single glance from this mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race. Extreme Fire's innate combat strength was top-notch among the humans. However, he had just entered the conjoint body realm and was still far from being comparable to the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race. His destiny dermic weapon was destroyed and Extreme Fire was implicated. He was severely injured and could not even control his body, falling from midair with a dispirited expression. "Grandmaster!" Tao Lord Scarlet Star exclaimed and rushed forward to protect Extreme Fire. "Take Master and leave this place immediately." Su Zimo immediately sent a voice transmission to Tao Lord Scarlet Star. "Uncle Master, but you..." Tao Lord Scarlet Star had a hesitant expression. "If you guys get involved in this battle, the entire 100 Refinement sect won't be able to withstand it. Hurry and leave. Don't stay here." Su Zimo's tone turned even more anxious. Extreme Fire was severely injured by the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race and his combat strength was greatly reduced. Even if he stayed here, he would not be of any help and might even distract Su Zimo. At that thought, Tao Lord Scarlet Star finally made up his mind and hollered, "100 Refinement sect, follow me." The 100 Refinement sect was the first to leave the battlefield. "Senior Crane, take the cultivators from Misty Peak and leave as soon as possible." Su Zimo transmitted his voice again. He didn't know why, but he kept feeling a little uncomfortable, as if he had overlooked something extremely important. This heaven and earth valley also made him feel uneasy. That uneasiness did not come from the primordial 6 races. Dao Lord Araki Takashi, the fact that you were able to create a cosmic idol that surpasses the paramount realm and reaches a height of 99 feet is truly unprecedented. God Han Ling slowly said, however, you still have to die today. In the face of the primordial 6 races, that dog's hit dharma characteristic of yours is nothing. Rakshasa Feng Tian sneered with a menacing expression. You Protoss and Rakshasa race really don't learn from your mistakes. Su Zimo's gaze was cold as he said with a murderous aura, seems like I haven't killed enough foreign races in Myriad Phenomenon City. I'm still not ruthless enough. Even against a group of primordial races, Su Zimo's aura did not weaken at all. Even Immortal Sword did not dare to make a sound when it was slapped by an expert of the primordial race. However, Su Zimo did not conceal his killing intent against the primordial 6 races. How dare you? You don't know what's good for you. The Protoss and Rakshasa experts hollered. God Han Ling's expression darkened instantly. Aunt Araki Takashi, you must have a death wish. Rakshasa Feng Tian was enraged as well and shrieked. The voice of the Rakshasa race was sharp and unpleasant to the ears. The battle in Myriad Phenomenon City was a huge humiliation for the Protoss and Rakshasa race. In the cultivation world, the human race kept that battle a secret. However, it was extremely widespread among the primordial 9 races, and the Protoss and Rakshasa race were the subject of much discussion. After all, it was not glorious for them to be defeated and wiped out by the human race. You're the one who has a death wish. Right then, a cold voice sounded from the crowd. Immediately after, a figure more than 30 feet tall darted out. It shone with a red glow and emitted a scorching aura as it descended behind Rakshasa Feng Tian instantly. The figure was extremely fast, and coupled with the fact that it appeared suddenly, even the experts of the primordial 6 races on the battlefield could not react in time, let alone the surrounding cultivators. Who's there? Many experts of the primordial races only had time to shout and did not manage to catch a clear glimpse of the figure's appearance. They could only make out a rough outline. The scarlet figure arrived behind Rakshasa Feng Tian and extended its palm without hesitation, revealing menacing sharp claws that shone with a cold glint as it swiped down towards Rakshasa Feng Tian's head. Rakshasa Feng Tian was alarmed and felt his scalp tingle. Without hesitation, he flapped his wings and fled into the distance. The Rakshasa race was way too fast. They were one of the best among the primordial 9 races. In that split second, Rakshasa Feng Tian's figure transformed into a black streak of light and wanted to break free from the shroud of the menacing gigantic claw. All of a sudden, the arm of the figure crackled and expanded by 3 feet. Instantly, it caught up to Rakshasa Feng Tian's figure and grabbed down once more. Blood mist spewed out. Rakshasa Feng Tian shrieked tragically. His reaction was already fast enough and his movement technique was pushed to its limits. Even so, the figure caught up to him and tore apart one of his flesh wings with its sharp claws, ripping off a large piece and causing blood to spurt everywhere. It was an extremely gory scene. Even the experts of the primordial 6 races gasped slightly. Even with Rakshasa Feng Tian's movement technique and speed, he could not escape unscathed. Just now, if this figure were to attack any of them, who would be spared? The moment that thought flashed through their minds, a change happened on the battlefield once more. The scarlet figure tore apart Rakshasa Feng Tian's wings with a single claw. It did not stop as it continued forward. Its 3-foot-tall body was like a python that suddenly coiled around Rakshasa Feng Tian's body. His blood chi surged and he exerted strength. Crack, crack. The sound of bones cracking could be heard from Rakshasa Feng Tian's body. Under countless gazes, Rakshasa Feng Tian's body was completely distorted from the pressure and distorted beyond recognition. Rakshasa Feng Tian's eyes bulged and were bloodshot. His face was purple and his blood chi dissipated rapidly. At the conjoint body realm, one could regrow limbs. Even if one's body was severely injured as such, there was hope for recovery as long as one was given time to recuperate. However, at that moment, Rakshasa Feng Tian was coiled by the scarlet figure. No matter how fast he could not break free and was even enduring immense pain. An essence spirit burrowed out of Rakshasa Feng Tian's head with a panicked expression, wanting to escape into the distance. Suddenly, the scarlet figure opened its mouth and spat out a tongue of fire, sucking the essence spirit into its mouth and burning it to ashes in the blink of an eye. Rakshasa Feng Tian was dead. Chapter 1308. The death of Rakshasa Feng Tian caused heaven and earth valley to fall into a dead silence. This scene was much more shocking than the death of a conjoint body mighty figure of the human race. Conjoint body experts of the primordial 6 races could suppress mighty figures of the human race with ease. Even a monster incarnate of the human race like Extreme Fire was severely injured by a single move from a mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race. But now, a mighty figure of a primordial race was killed on the spot by a living being of unknown origin in front of everyone. Who is that? Who else would dare to help Araki Takashi and even kill an expert of the Rakshasa race? That's way too ruthless. Could it be a half-martial ancestor or a Mahayana patriarch? The cultivators focused their gazes but were stunned on the spot. To be more precise, this crimson figure could not be considered a human. It was over 10 meters tall and had crimson red hair like flames. Its entire body was covered in crimson red scales that even covered its cheeks. Only a pair of bright eyes could be seen, like 2 balls of fire. This was definitely a foreign race. The knuckles on the gigantic claw protruded like molten steel and were filled with a metallic luster. The claws were incomparably sharp and were even dripping with the scarlet blood of Rakshasa Feng Tian. The strange thing was that the left hand of the foreign race was the only one with such a menacing gigantic claw. The palm on his right hand was as fair as usual and looked no different from a human's. The scarlet figure emitted an extremely violent aura and his blood chi surged. In fact, he was not disadvantaged against the primordial 6 races. Many cultivators looked at the scarlet-haired foreign race and felt as though they were facing a primordial race. Could this foreign race be one of the primordial 9 races as well? That can't be, right? I don't think any of the primordial 9 races look like that. This foreign race looks a little like dragons. Now that you mention it, I'm reminded of something. A cultivator reminisced. I heard that back in Myriad Phenomenon City, Araki Takashi transformed into a dragon to kill the foreign race. He seemed to be in this half-dragon form. Are you saying that this foreign race is Araki Takashi? That's impossible. This idea was a little too far-fetched. Tao Lord Araki Takashi was standing to the side. He was dressed in green robes and had black hair. He looked very different from this red-haired alien. If the red-haired man was Araki Takashi, then who was the black-haired man in the green robe? Could this be a clone of Tao Lord Araki Takashi? In fact, some cultivators had already guessed the truth. This red figure was the true body of the dragons. The moment their true forms appeared, they did not hold back and appeared in their half-dragon's form right away against the experts of the primordial 6 races. Hearing the discussions around him, Su Zimo's expression did not change. He did not care about exposing the true form of the dragons. Even if everyone in the world knew that he had the true body of a dragon, it didn't matter. It wouldn't implicate the dragon race. Because no one knew that this true body of a dragon was the young master of the dragons. No one would have thought that a half-dragon being would become the young master of dragons. Of course, that was not absolute. Among the primordial 6 races, there were still people who were suspicious. Wu Xie narrowed his eyes and shone with a dark green light in deep thought. Back then, the battle between the true form of the dragons and Long Tsong happened after Wu Xie left. Therefore, he had never seen the true form of the dragons before and naturally did not recognize the true form of the dragons right away. However, Wu Xie had lived for a long time and was knowledgeable. He was sharp and could vaguely sense that the scarlet-haired alien with dragon scales before him was related to the young master of the dragons he saw in the Dragon Bone Valley. Where did this beast come from? The mighty figure of the heavenly eye race said coldly. The golden crow third prince sniffed gently and said, "Indeed, this beast possesses the bloodline aura of dragons. He's probably a bastard left behind by some dragons." "Fufu, I was some powerful character back then," God Han Ling smiled gently. "So, he's only at the Dharma characteristic realm. Rakshasa Feng Tian's death can only be blamed on his carelessness." These words weren't empty words. If not for the sudden appearance of the true form of the dragons and Rakshasa Feng Tian was caught off guard, he would not have been killed in a flash. Right then, a gentle breeze blew and two pitch-black beams of light crept behind the true form of the dragons at an extremely fast speed. Suddenly, the two beams of light appeared. They were two Dharma characteristic Rakshasas. The two Rakshasas could not hold themselves back and wanted to take revenge for Rakshasa Feng Tian. As such, they sneaked over secretly and raised the curved sabers in their hands, slashing towards the head of the true form of the dragons. Under their gazes, the scarlet-haired alien did not even turn back, as though he did not notice anything. A ferocious look flashed through the eyes of the two Rakshasas. It was as though they could see the head of the scarlet-haired alien rolling with a fountain of blood gushing out. However, they did not know that their every move could not be hidden from the spirit perception of the true form of the dragons. "You must have a death wish." All of a sudden, the true form of the dragons spat out a single word. Without turning back, he swung his arm in reverse and whipped a Rakshasa with the might of a divine elephant's trunk. Bang! Before the Rakshasa could even make a sound, he was whipped into pieces and blood stained the voids. What sort of power was that to be able to shatter the body of a Rakshasa with a casual punch? The expression of the other Rakshasa changed starkly. Before he could think further, a dragon claw had already grabbed his curved saber. Snap! The curved saber was crushed into pieces by the menacing dragon claw. Exclamation point! The dragon claw reached out and crushed the head of the Rakshasa. His essence spirit was destroyed and he died on the spot. In the blink of an eye, another two Rakshasas died. Where did this monster come from? Killing Rakshasas is as easy as crushing ants? We've never seen the combat strength of that taboo called Night Spirit. However, in my opinion, this scarlet-haired alien is the one who deserves the title of taboo. The cultivators were secretly speechless. The current situation of the Dharma characteristic ranking this time round had most likely exceeded everyone's expectations. All the cultivators were focused on the battlefield and no one noticed that Heavenly Secrets, who was not far away, smirked with a faint smile. A strange sanguine glint shone in his eyes and the wounds on his body had already healed. "This beast is interesting," the golden crow third prince frowned. "He can kill Rakshasas easily at the same cultivation realm?" The mighty figure of the heavenly eye race raised his brow slightly. "The Rakshasas of this generation seem a little weak." "Is that so?" The aura of the true form of the dragons surged as he shouted, "Let me try the methods of the heavenly eye race then." The reason why the dragon's true form came was to kill the experts of the primordial races and would not waste time talking to them. Furthermore, the heavenly eye race had just severely injured Extreme Fire and the reason why the dragon's true form targeted him was to take revenge for Extreme Fire. The mighty figure of the heavenly eye race frowned and said coldly, "You have a death wish. How dare you challenge me? You're the one I'm going to kill." Before his sentence was finished, the dragon's true form had already arrived before the heavenly eye race. The mighty figure of the heavenly eye race had a grim expression. It was only at this moment that he sensed the ferocious and scorching aura emitted by the dragon's true form. It was as though it wanted to tear everything apart and incinerate everything. Not good, this beast's blood chi is too strong. The mighty figure of the heavenly eye race was shocked. Chapter 1309. The true bodies of the dragons were at the Dharma characteristic realm and were a major cultivation realm apart from the conjoint body experts of the primordial six races present. Even though Night Spirit was at the Dharma characteristic realm, he could not escape the pursuit of the primordial six races. However, the true bodies of the dragons were different from Night Spirit. The true bodies of the dragons were not pure dragons. Their bodies and blood chi were cultivated with the foundation of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. That was their strongest trump card. For races like the Heavenly Eye and Rakshasa races that were not known for their bodies and bloodlines, they were still doomed against the true bodies of the dragons. Suddenly, a crack appeared on the glabella of the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race. The terrifying Heavenly Eye opened once more and chaos seemed to fill it as countless mysterious runes surged. It was as though the world had just been created. A dark light burst forth. No matter how fast the movement techniques of the true bodies of the dragons were, they could not be faster than visual techniques. The moment the Heavenly Eye opened, the visual technique descended. At that moment, both parties were extremely close and there was no time to dodge. The expression of the true bodies of the dragons were unchanged. Their eyes shone brightly and 2 blazing flames burst forth with 2 scarlet beams of light. The power of divine powers spread. It was an innate divine power awakened by the true bodies of the dragons, the Illumination Dragon Eye. This remnant of the dragons with an impure bloodline actually awakened the innate divine power of the Illumination Dragon lineage? Wu Xie's eyes flickered and he was even more doubtful. The Golden Crow Third Prince sneered, "Fu, this beast is way too ignorant. He's courting death by using the Illumination Dragon Eye against the visual technique divine power of the Heavenly Eye race." The Heavenly Eye race reigned supreme over visual techniques in the world. The power of the Illumination Dragon Eye was considered top-notch among the many visual techniques. However, there was no doubt that it would lose against the visual technique of the Heavenly Eye race. After all, the Heavenly Eye on the forehead of the Heavenly Eye race was condensed with the essence of their bloodline and dermic powers. Boom! Before the Golden Crow Third Prince could finish his sentence, 2 scarlet beams of light collided violently with the dark light and exploded. A miserable shriek came from the battlefield as a figure staggered and retreated. I've said it before. This bastard is asking for it by challenging the Heavenly Eye tribe with his eye technique. The Golden Crow Third Prince was mocking when his expression suddenly changed and his smile froze on his face. The experts of the primordial 6 races widened their eyes in disbelief as well. In a clash of eye techniques, the victor was indeed decided at the first moment. However, unlike what the experts of the primordial 6 races thought, the ones who cried out in defeat were not the true bodies of the dragons, but the mighty figures of the Heavenly Eye race. How is this possible? God Han Ling frowned and murmured subconsciously. This bastard is only at the Dharma characteristic realm. How can an eye technique injure a mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race? The mighty figure of the Bloodvine race was also shocked. This is definitely not the Torch Dragon's eye. The Golden Crow Third Prince said sternly, "The Torch Dragon's eye can't be this powerful." To be precise, the eye technique released by the true body of the dragons was indeed not the Torch Dragon's eye, but the Illumination Eye. That was because an illumination stone was fused into his eye. It was a cardinal treasure of the universe and was probably even older than the creation Qinglian. The eye technique of the Heavenly Eye race was indeed stronger than the Illumination Dragon's eye. However, the power of the Illumination Dragon's eye that was fused with the Illumination Stone was more than double. If it was a Tao Lord of the Heavenly Eye race at the same cultivation realm, that single collision would have blinded the eye on the forehead of the Heavenly Eye race. But now, the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race only had a pained expression and a trace of blood seeped out of his Heavenly Eye. His foundation was not injured and he would definitely recover as long as he was nursed. However, the true bodies of the dragons would not give him the chance. After the head-on collision with the eye technique, the true body of the dragons had a cold expression without any emotions in his eyes. He strode forward and extended his dragon claws, grabbing the head of the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race. Exclamation point! The dragon claws were sharp and pierced the head of the mighty figure of the Heavenly Eye race instantly, shattering his consciousness and destroying his essence spirit. The true bodies of the dragons burst forth consecutively and killed another mighty figure of the primordial races. Elder! Many Heavenly Eye race beings were enraged and exclaimed, "Buzz! Buzz! Buzz!" Dozens of Heavenly Eye race beings, be it at the Dharma characteristic or conjoint body realm, opened their heavenly eyes at the same time, and a terrifying power burst forth instantly. Instantly, the world shook and a shuddering aura descended. The true bodies of the dragons warned with their spirit perception and left beforehand. In a flash, they had already charged into the camp of the primordial 6 races. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Streaks of dark light descended one after another and failed to hit the true bodies of the dragons. Instead, they severely injured a few witches, golden crow and bloodvine races who could not dodge in time. Only the Protoss relied on his powerful physique and blood chi, while the Rakshasa race relied on their speed to avoid being pierced by the dark light. You Heavenly Eye race beings are crazy. Close your eyes. The Golden Crow Third Prince roared. Once a visual technique was released, there was no way to retract it. Even if many experts of the Heavenly Eye race saw their visual techniques charge towards the experts of the primordial races and injure them by mistake, there was nothing they could do. After that commotion, the camp of hundreds of experts of the primordial races fell into chaos. Of course, there were also many dark lights that charged into the crowd. If even the experts of the primordial races could not defend against the visual techniques of the Heavenly Eye race, many human cultivators were even more miserable. Even some conjoint body mighty figures were killed on the spot by the visual techniques of the Heavenly Eye race and suffered an unexpected calamity. The cultivators of 100 Refinement sect and Ethereal sect had long retreated and were lucky to be spared. On the other side, the true bodies of the dragons made use of the chaos to arrive beside a mighty figure of the witch race. They reached out with their claws and grabbed the head of the mighty figure of the witch race. Beast, how dare you! The mighty being of the shaman race waved his pure white bone staff and muttered an extremely strange and evil incantation. A ghastly green palm condensed rapidly on his bone staff. Roar! Suddenly, the true bodies of the dragons reared their heads and roared into the skies, letting out a loud and clear roar that could pierce through metal and rocks. The dragon's roar reverberated through the world in a deafening manner. The mighty figure of the witch race shuddered and his eyes bulged, turning bloodshot instantly. To begin with, a dragon's roar was the strongest killing technique of the dragons. A dragon's roar could intimidate all races. If it was a human cultivator, the dragon's roar would have been able to shatter their bodies at this distance. The mighty figure of the witch race did not have it easy either. His eyes were bloodshot, and streaks of scarlet blood were slowly flowing out of his nostrils, mouth, and ears. The witch race was not known for their bloodlines and bodies to begin with. Furthermore, he was interrupted by the dragon's roar before he could finish chanting his secret skill incantation and was stunned on the spot. The true bodies of the dragons were not stunned. With a cold expression, before their roar was finished, their menacing dragon claws had already descended and tore the mighty figure of the witch race into shreds. A mighty figure of the witch race was dead. For primordial races such as the witch race and the Heavenly Eye race, their bodies and bloodlines were not strong. Once the true bodies of the dragons closed in, they were doomed. The true bodies of the dragons descended and massacred everyone. Chapter 1310. Of course, among the primordial 6 races present, the true bodies of the dragons were not invincible and were invincible. For example, the Rakshasa and Golden Crow race were extremely fast. Even with the speed of the dragons' true bodies, they could not catch up to them within a short period of time. After the Bloodvine race transformed into their true bodies, they had many vines densely packed together. Even if a single vine was severed, it would not be able to injure their foundation and it would be difficult for them to get close. As for the Protoss, they were known for their physique and bloodline to begin with. It was difficult for the dragons' true bodies to kill them in melee combat. Therefore, the only ones that the dragons' true bodies could truly fight in melee combat were the Witch race and Heavenly Eye race. However, as time passed by, the people of the primordial 6 races gradually calmed down under the lead of the mighty figures of the primordial races. They stabilized their formation and fought the dragons' true bodies head-on with the Protoss as the main force. The Bloodvine race waved their vines and restrained the dragons' true bodies continuously, restricting their space. The Golden Crow and Rakshasa race interfered continuously around the dragon's true bodies. As for the Witch and Heavenly Eye race, they retreated to the periphery and distanced themselves from the dragon's true bodies, releasing visual techniques and witchcraft. The dragon's true body had a grim expression. He knew very well that once the formation of the primordial 6 races was formed, he would be trapped in an endless bitter battle and might not even be able to kill a single one of them, let alone rescue Night Spirit. Little beast, let's see what else you have up your sleeves. Although an old Protoss had white hair, he was hale and hearty. He was tall and his body surged with golden blood chi as he charged towards the dragon's true body and raised his fist to punch. A blinding golden light burst forth from his fist, as though a divine dragon was born. The void trembled. The blood chi and physique of the Protoss was way too strong. Even a divine race old man could also erupt with such a terrifying attack. Old dog, how dare you scold me? The true body of the dragons didn't dodge. His eyes were cold and flashing with cold light. He suddenly reached out and grabbed the old Protoss's fist. I think you're tired of living. I'll send you on your way now. Little bastard, how dare you speak such arrogant words? With your strength, do you think you can kill me? The old Protoss had a disdainful look on his face. Since the start of the battle, more than 30 members of the primordial races had died under the hands of the dragons. However, most of them were at the Dharma characteristic realm. Furthermore, not a single Protoss had perished in the hands of the dragons. The true body of the dragons grinned. In the palm of his outstretched hand, a gray mist condensed. It looked ordinary, and there was no terrifying power emanating from it. What is this? The old Protoss frowned. Although he did not recognize the origin of this gray fog, he vaguely felt a sense of unease. In the blink of an eye, the palms of the true dragons had already grasped the old Protoss's fist tightly, and gray mist quickly enveloped it. I don't feel anything? The Protoss was slightly stunned. His divine fist landed on the gray mist. It was soft, and his strength seemed to have sunk into the sea and disappeared. Although this attack did not injure the dragon's true body, the gray mist released by the dragon's true body did not hurt him either. Ha! The old Protoss threw his head back and laughed with a mocking expression. What kind of bullsh** T-Dharma spell is this? How dare you use it to embarrass yourself? You, the old Protoss's voice stopped abruptly. He suddenly felt that his lifespan was rapidly decreasing at the speed of 1,000 years in a breath. It could not be stopped at all. What's going on? How can this be? The old Protoss subconsciously retreated, wanting to distance himself from the dragon's true body. However, the true body of the dragons grabbed his fist tightly like maggots following closely behind. The gray mist was still wrapped around the old Protoss. At this moment, the other experts of the primordial races also noticed the abnormality of the old Protoss. Elder, your face? God Hanling's eyes widened as a trace of shock flashed across them. Under countless gazes, the old Protoss's face was aging at a speed visible to the naked eye. Wrinkles appeared on his originally glossy face. His lifespan was decreasing. And his chi and blood began to decline. The old Protoss reacted a little slower and did not break free from the entanglement of the dragon's true body. As time dragged on, he did not have the strength to break free. The old Protoss opened his mouth, wanting to roar and call for help. However, his voice became incomparably old, and a strange sound came from the depths of his throat. Everyone present could feel the loss of life in the old Protoss's body. Soon, the old Protoss's eyes widened. His body was dry and there was no sign of life in it. He fell from the sky and died with a grievance. This old man from the divine race did not even understand what kind of spell he had died under until his death. What kind of method is this? I've never seen it before. It seems like it can reduce one's lifespan. He's only at the Dharma characteristic realm, and the Dharmic art he released can even reduce the lifespan of a conjoint body mighty figure? Furthermore, the speed at which his lifespan is decreasing is way too fast. The experts of the primordial 6 races were shocked. They had a legacy of history and had seen all sorts of races and Dharmic arts. Even with their knowledge, They had never seen such a terrifying method before. "Everyone, don't panic," the Golden Crow Third Prince said in a deep voice. "Since that dermic art is so powerful, it must be extremely taxing on him as well. He won't be able to release it again within a short period of time." "Not necessarily." The voice of the dragon's true body sounded coldly. "I'll let you primordial races have a taste of the power of Baron." Swoosh. The dragon's true body conjured hand seals rapidly, and an extremely strange dermic power fluctuations spread into the surroundings with his body as the center. Gray ripples appeared in the void like water ripples, rippling in all directions. After the dragon's true body entered the Dragon Bone Valley, he released Baron once and even alarmed the dragon's elders. Due to the terror of Baron, the dragon's elders reached an agreement with him that they were not allowed to release it against dragons in the Dragon Bone Valley. After all, the reduction of lifespan with Baron was irreversible. That was way too shocking. Nobody wanted to lose their lifespan for no reason. Now that he was surrounded by the primordial 6 races, the dragon's true body no longer had any reservations. Instantly, the power of Baron burst forth and surged towards the primordial 6 races. In this battlefield, the dragon's true body did not have to worry about accidentally injuring others. The primordial 6 races were right beside him, and Baron enveloped the experts of the primordial 6 races first. "What's that?" The expressions of the experts of the primordial 6 races changed. The Golden Crow and Rakshasa races made use of their movement techniques and fled into the distance immediately. The Witch and Heavenly Eye races had already retreated to the periphery and were spared. However, some of the Protoss and Bloodvine races were not so lucky. The Protoss were in melee combat with the dragon's true body the entire time, and Baron burst forth, enveloping them instantly. After the Bloodvine race transformed into their true bodies, they took root underground and could not move. They were enveloped by Baron as well. Entering Baron was akin to sinking into a swamp, and one's movement speed became extremely slow instantly. It was difficult for them to move and break free. Some of the Protoss and Bloodvine races in the center of Baron had their lifespans decreasing rapidly at a speed of 1,000 years per breath. Life was drained rapidly wherever the gray ripples swept. The world was barren. Chapter 1311. Although the primordial 9 races possessed heaven-defying combat strength and reigned supreme throughout history, the strength, bloodline, and physique that each race specialized in were different. Even the lifespans of the primordial races differed greatly. For example, among the primordial 9 races, the Dragons and Kuan race had the longest lifespans, while the Bloodvine race had the shortest lifespans. The Bloodvine race was a spirit formed from plants and vegetation. Coupled with the harsh environment of the primordial era, they evolved many cruel methods and plundered the flesh and essence of living beings. That was why they were able to develop into a massive race. However, in essence, the Bloodvine race did not have long lifespans and was similar to humans. In other words, the Tao Lords of the Bloodvine race present only had lifespans of around 10,000 years. Even mighty figures of the Bloodvine race only had a lifespan of around 20,000 years. Although the other races were also losing their lifespan, they were still able to hold on after falling into the range of the Baron spell. For example, Protoss struggled to break free from the envelopment of Baron with their powerful physiques and blood chi. Some Protoss mighty figures had already escaped. However, Baron was way too harmful to the Bloodvine race and could be said to be fatal. The Bloodvine race was rooted underground and relied on their vines to fight against others. Unable to move, they could only watch as their lifespans decreased rapidly when they were enveloped by Baron. Some of the Tao Lords of the Bloodvine race that were closer to Su Zimo had lifespans of more than 10,000 years. In just a few breaths, they were exhausted of their lifespans and died. 1,000 years per breath and 10 breaths were equivalent to 10,000 years. Most of the mighty figures of the Bloodvine race that arrived here were more than 10,000 years old. How many breaths could they last? Even if some of the mighty figures of the Bloodvine race reacted and transformed into human form to escape the range of Baron with all their might, their lifespans were greatly reduced and their blood chi deteriorated while their faces aged rapidly. How could this be? A mighty figure of the Bloodvine race fled into the distance and sensed the situation within his body. His eyes widened as he shrieked in disbelief. I've already left the range of the dermic art and my lifespan can't recover? This dermic art is way too domineering and reduces one's lifespan. It's irreversible. God Han Ling had already escaped and said with lingering fear. Normally speaking, their cultivation levels were higher than this red-haired foreign beings, but even they had to avoid this spell. When the Bloodvine race saw their people die one by one, their bodies trembled. It was unknown whether it was due to anger or some kind of fear. They gritted their teeth and said, "This red-haired foreign race must be killed. This beast is even scarier than that Tao Lord Araki Takashi." The Golden Crow Third Prince said solemnly. Kill. A few mighty figures of the Bloodvine race lost their lifespans and were enraged. Their killing intent surged as they extended countless blood vines and charged into the crowd. The human faces at the top of the blood vines opened their bloody mouths and bit down on the head of a cultivator. The layers of fangs kept shrinking. In the blink of an eye, the human cultivator was devoured and turned into rumbling life force essence that replenished the blood chi of the mighty figure of the Bloodvine race. This was simply a disaster for the cultivation world of the major sects and forces. Most cultivators found it difficult to defend against the massacre of the Bloodvine race. Many vines danced and could even seal off all escape routes for cultivators, trapping them within and devouring them eventually. In that short period of time, even a few conjoint body mighty figures were not spared and were devoured by the mighty figures of the Bloodvine race without any corpses left. The crowd was in chaos. This was an unexpected calamity. Countless cultivators had terrified expressions as they screamed, roared, cursed and fled for their lives. They had not expected that the primordial races would suddenly turn around and massacre them when they were initially killing Tao Lord Araki Takashi. The ancient war was too far away. Many cultivators had already forgotten that the reason why the primordial races were called primordial races was because of their heaven-defying combat strength, ferocious and fearless. Joining forces with the primordial races was no different from asking a tiger for its skin. Without absolute strength, one might be standing with the primordial races a moment ago, but the next moment, they might end up as food for the primordial races. The Bloodvine race went on a killing spree, no matter what sect or aristocratic family they were from. Even the paragons and monster incarnates of super sects were nothing more than ants in their eyes. At that moment, be it Heavenly Dipper sect, Sword sect, Zephyr Thunder Palace or Chaos Essence sect, cultivators died. When Su Zimo saw that, his expression was cold and his heart did not waver at all. Just now, those super sects were still domineering and declared that they wanted to kill him and Night Spirit here. In the blink of an eye, they only had themselves to blame for ending up in such a state. Even though the speed at which one's lifespan was decreasing in the periphery of Baron was already very slow, no primordial races were willing to enter and waste their lifespan for no reason. With the might of Baron, all the experts of the primordial 6 races were forced to retreat. In a flash, Su Zimo's figure flashed and his 99 feet tall heaven and earth dharma characteristic guarded by his side. He arrived beside Night Spirit swiftly and wanted to help Night Spirit up. However, when he grabbed Night Spirit's arm and raised it, he could not pull it up. Although Qinglian's true body was not as strong as the dragon's true body, nor was it as terrifying as the bloodline of the dragon's true body, her strength was not to be underestimated as well. Not to mention pulling up Night Spirit, even lifting up a mountain peak would not be a problem. Ugh! Night Spirit's expression changed and he grunted. Su Zimo's gaze narrowed. Instead of pulling Night Spirit up, he triggered the chains on Night Spirit's body. The metal hoop tightened and the spikes pierced Night Spirit's flesh once more, causing scarlet blood to flow. Su Zimo was anxious. If he wanted to rescue Night Spirit, he had to break the chains. Although Baron was terrifying, the dermic powers of the dragon's true bodies were not endless and could not last long. The experts of the primordial 6 races guarded the periphery and were all prepared. Once Baron dissipated, they would charge forward once more. Up till this point of the battle, more than 100 of the primordial 6 races had died. However, most of them were Dharma-characteristic Tao lords. Not many mighty figures of the primordial races died. In other words, if the experts of the primordial 6 races surrounded them once more, Su Zimo and Night Spirit would most likely be doomed. Su Zimo said in a deep voice, "Night Spirit, bear with it for a while. I'll try to break the chains." Night Spirit pursed his lips and nodded. Su Zimo gripped the creation lotus platform tightly and smashed it against the chains on Night Spirit's body. Clang! Sparks flew. Su Zimo shuddered and felt a tremendous recoil surge into his body. His palm went numb and the creation lotus platform nearly flew out of his hands. Haha! When he saw that, God Han Ling could not help but laugh. "Araki Takashi, don't do such meaningless things. This heavenly godlock is a precious treasure of the Protoss. Even Dharma treasures can't break it. Your creation lotus platform is far inferior." Chapter 13:12. Even the experts of the primordial 6 races were not flustered when they saw Su Zimo arrive beside Night Spirit. That was because they knew that there was no way Night Spirit could leave this place as long as he could not unlock the heavenly godlock. Su Zimo also knew that it was not because the creation lotus platform was not strong enough. It was because the original creation Qinglian was destroyed and there was only a single lotus platform left. It was naturally much weaker. "I refuse to believe that I can't open a stupid lock." With a single thought from Su Zimo, the true body of the dragon sensed it. Sensing that it did not have much dermic powers left in its body, it stopped releasing Baron and opened its glabella, revealing a bronze square tripod. Su Zimo obtained the bronze square tripod in the Great Qin ruins and its origins were unknown. Although the tripod was filled with cracks and was crippled, the broken body of the tripod was incomparably tough and no divine weapon could hurt it. Su Zimo had used the bronze square tripod in Myriad Phenomenon City before and many cultivators had seen it before. If he summoned the bronze square tripod, it was almost certain that he could not hide the relationship between the true body of the dragons. However, there was no other way at the moment and he could only give it a try with the bronze square tripod. The blood chi in the true body of the dragons surged as it raised the bronze square tripod and smashed it against the heavenly godlock with all its strength. Clang! There was a deafening sound. The heavenly godlock was undamaged and instead shone with a bedazzling golden light. The powerful recoil nearly flipped the true body of the dragons. How strong were the true body of the dragon's physique and bloodline? Even so, his entire arm was numb from the impact and his blood vessels were blocked. Night Spirit's neck and limbs were pierced by many spikes once more and fresh blood gushed out. However, Night Spirit grit his teeth and did not make a sound. "Humph," God Han Ling said proudly, "how can a piece of scrap metal like you touch the precious treasure of the Protoss? The stronger you are, the stronger the recoil of the heavenly godlock will be." The moment he said that, God Han Ling and the other experts of the primordial 6 races surrounded him once more. Without Baron, the experts of the primordial 6 races no longer had any reservations. All of them glared at Su Zimo, the true bodies of the dragons and the Night Spirit who were in the middle of the battlefield with killing intent. The situation was becoming more and more critical. If they couldn't make it through this time, Su Zimo and the other 2 would all die here. That bronze square cauldron seems somewhat familiar. It seems that Tao Lord Araki Takashi once used this cauldron to fight against the Protoss commander in Myriad Phenomenon City. What is the relationship between this crimson-haired alien and Tao Lord Araki Takashi? Some cultivators had already noticed the abnormality. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes, thinking of a countermeasure. The more dangerous the situation was, the more he had to remain calm. Right then, a low and hoarse voice rang in Su Zimo's ears. "Zimo, back off." It was Yen Beichen. Instinctively, Su Zimo retreated and looked towards Yen Beichen. At that moment, Yen Beichen had already snapped out of his self-blame and hatred just now. Wielding the hatred fiend saber, he strode over with a torrential fiend chi with pitch-black eyes. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. God Han Ling had once said that even the Dharma treasures of Mahayana patriarchs could not shatter this heavenly godlock. However, The Hatred Fiend saber was not a Dharma treasure. It was an emperor weapon that was even stronger than Dharma treasures. An emperor weapon was known as an emperor weapon. Yen Beichen did not put on any stance and slashed with his saber. The Hatred Fiend saber transformed into a black beam of light and slashed towards the heavenly god Locke. At the same time, the experts of the primordial 6 races charged forward and attacked as well. Araki Takashi, let's see what else you have up your sleeves. Let's kill that crimson-haired beast first and see what he is. The experts of the primordial 6 races hollered with killing intent and were filled with resentment. As members of the primordial races, they had never suffered such a loss. All of them were forced back by a single dermic art. At that moment, Yen Beichen attacked the heavenly god Locke. Su Zimo's 99 feet tall heaven and earth dharma characteristic was already covered in injuries up till this point of the battle and could not defend against the experts of the primordial 6 races at all. The gaze of the dragon's true body burned brightly as blood chi surged within his body. The sound of a tsunami echoed and his aura rose continuously. Tsunami blood. What a powerful blood chi. The hearts of the experts of the primordial 6 races skipped a beat as well. God Han Ling's expression was fearless as he said coldly, "What's there to fear if it's just tsunami blood? My bloodline has also been cultivated to this level." The sound of a tsunami rumbled from within God Han Ling's body as well, and his blood chi surged with a terrifying might. However, the aura of the dragon's true body was still rising rapidly and showed no signs of stopping. Scarlet demonic chi rumbled around the dragon's true body and within the blazing flames. Menacing and lifelike ancient demon kings with frightening gazes condensed one after another. Wild Ox Demon King. Stone Bear Demon King. Anaconda Demon King. Sanguine Ape Demon King. Divine Chariot Demon King. Hell Tiger Demon King. Wind Leopard Demon King. Desolate Ocean Dragon King. Sea Calming Turtle. The 9 demon kings were born from flames and descended with powerful auras. Their claws and fangs were sharp and their demon eyes shone with a ferocious glint as they surrounded the dragon's true body. Although there were only 9 demon kings, they were not disadvantaged in terms of aura against the encirclement of experts of the primordial 6 races. Bloodline phenomenon? The group of cultivators who had fled far away could not help but turn back when they sensed the commotion. Their expressions changed. It's Araki Takashi. That scarlet-haired alien is definitely Dao Lord Araki Takashi. The bloodline phenomenon was way too shocking, and Su Zimo was the only one in Tianhuang mainland who had released it before. Although the bloodline phenomenon before them seemed to have 2 more terrifying demon kings than what the cultivators knew, everyone knew that apart from Dao Lord Araki Takashi, no one else could cultivate such a phenomenon. Could that scarlet-haired alien be the clone of Dao Lord Araki Takashi? Pissed. At the thought of that possibility, the cultivators could not help but gasp. That was way too terrifying. A single Dao Lord Araki Takashi was already so strong. However, the combat strength of this scarlet-haired alien was even more terrifying. If the 2 of them were the same person, what sort of existence was that person? It's truly possible. A cultivator said sternly, "Don't forget, Dao Lord Araki Takashi's dragon's bloodline disappeared completely after the battle in the Dao inheritance ground. From the looks of it, there's a high chance that he created this clone with the bloodline of dragons. As expected of the strongest monster incarnate in history. On the battlefield, the experts of the primordial 6 races were shocked as well. The bloodline phenomenon of the 9 demon kings before them was no less shocking to them than the barren dermic art just now. Was that a bloodline phenomenon? What sort of bloodline phenomenon would cause such a huge commotion and release such insufferably ferocious 9 demon beasts? Many of those demon beasts were from the most ordinary races. However, even the mighty figures of the primordial 6 races felt their hearts skip a beat when they exchanged glances with those demon beasts. Right then, the true bodies of the dragons opened their mouths. The 9 demon kings opened their mouths at the same time and let out an earth-shattering roar. Silence filled the heavens and earth. The experts of the primordial 6 races were so shocked by the roar that they lost their voices and even forgot to breathe. The Dharma Daojun of the closest primordial race could not withstand the roar and bled from his 7 orifices. His essence spirit was destroyed and he died on the spot, his corpse falling from midair. Chapter 1313. Although the bloodlines of the primordial 6 races were noble and powerful, apart from the Protoss, none of the experts of the other 5 races had cultivated a bloodline phenomenon. However, as long as a Protoss reached a certain age, they would be able to form a bloodline phenomenon without cultivating. The purer a Protoss's bloodline, the stronger the bloodline phenomenon formed. That was also the strength of a Protoss's bloodline. Kill them. God Han Ling quickly calmed down. With a command, he pushed his blood chi to the limit, and a tall and majestic pyramid appeared beneath him. It was at least several thousand feet tall, and it exuded a boundless golden light. It exuded an ancient and mysterious aura. Beneath the pyramid, living beings of the 10,000 races knelt. There were hundreds of millions of them densely packed, and there was no end in sight. Every single living being had their palms pressed together and looked up at the pyramid above their heads, chanting prayers with pious expressions. Thin golden threads extended from the heads of the billions of living beings and gathered at the top of the pyramid where a godlike existence stood. It was God Han Ling. Bang, bang, bang. The remaining Protoss released their bloodline phenomenons as well. Instantly, dozens of ancient pyramids descended and hovered in the void, causing the world to quake. The cultivators watching from afar were shocked. In a daze, they felt as though they had returned to the primordial era where they were enslaved and ruled by the Protoss. A fear that came from the depths of their bloodlines grew in their hearts. Even some conjoint body mighty figures were pale and felt stifled in their chests, finding it difficult to breathe. In the primordial era, humans knelt on the ground. They were the most inferior and insignificant members of the billions of living beings, and their lives were akin to ants. Right now, that scene had reappeared in the world. Even though the cultivators had already fled far away, they still felt a tremendous pressure after the dozens of pyramids descended. Some cultivators even had the urge to kneel on the ground and worship. The cultivators could not imagine the pressure Su Zimo, who was at the center of the battlefield and surrounded by dozens of ancient pyramids. No matter how strong the scarlet-haired alien was, he was only at the Dharma characteristic realm. How could a Dharma characteristic bloodline phenomenon fight against the phenomenons of so many Protoss? Not to mention, there were several Protoss powerhouses. Evildoer, so what if you've cultivated a bloodline phenomenon? In front of my Protoss phenomenon, you bunch of beasts are nothing but chickens and dogs. You won't be able to withstand a single blow. God Han Ling roared. Don't waste your breath on him. Kill him as soon as possible. The Golden Crow Third Prince said loudly. Boom, boom, boom. Almost at the same time, the primordial 6 races attacked. Dozens of ancient pyramids charged towards the true bodies of the dragons with a massive aura. The 9 demon kings were naturally fearless. They moved at the same time and collided with the dozens of pyramids. The wild ox plowed through the heavens, raising its horns and overturning a pyramid. The stone bear's huge body leaned forward and slammed into the pyramid, almost shattering it into pieces and causing cracks to appear. The giant python coiled around the pyramid, opened its bloody mouth, and swallowed the entire pyramid into its stomach with a force that seemed capable of swallowing heaven and earth. The sanguine ape thumped its chest and stomped its feet. Striding forward, it raised its fist and smashed down with a torrential aura. Divine Steed Charge, Hell Tiger Bite, Wind Leopard Shuttle, Dragon King Tail Whip, and Spirit Turtle Sea Suppression. The 9 demon kings released shocking combat strength and defended against the dozens of pyramids. The clash of bloodline phenomenons was earth-shaking. However, the situation was still extremely disadvantageous for Su Zimo. That was because he was not only facing the Protoss. There were also experts of the primordial 5 races. Although the 9 demon kings managed to defend against the dozens of pyramids for the time being, The experts of the other primordial 5 races seized the opportunity to attack and forced the 9 demon kings to retreat. 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. There were too many experts of the primordial 6 races, and the 9 demon kings could not defend against them either. Clang. Right then, the sound of metal clashing sounded from the side. It was extremely crisp but ear-piercing, like a sharp sword piercing one's eardrums. The Hatred Fiend's saber had already struck the Heavenly God Lock. As though it sensed something, the Heavenly God Lock burst forth with a bedazzling golden light. A powerful force surged into the Hatred Fiend's saber, wanting to repel it. That power stimulated the Hatred Fiend's saber as well. Endless fiend chi emanated from the Hatred Fiend's saber as well. It was pitch black and corroded the Heavenly God Lock continuously. The 2 weapons began to fight, and neither of them was willing to lower their heads. Although the Hatred Fiend's saber was an emperor weapon, it was difficult for Yen Beichen to unleash its true power given his strength. However, the Heavenly God Lock's continuous stimulation of the Hatred Fiend's saber triggered the emperor weapon instead. This was no longer a fight between cultivators, but a fight between 2 weapons. Su Zimo believed that the Heavenly God Lock was definitely not a match for the Hatred Fiend's saber. However, it would take time to sever the Heavenly God Lock. On the other side, the 9 demon kings could no longer hold on. Everyone join forces. These few beast phenomenons are already at the end of their tether. God Han Ling declared with a torrential aura. Bang! The moment he said that, his pyramid descended and shattered Dragon King Desolate Ocean. The phenomenon dissipated and turned into rumbling scarlet demonic chi. Bang! 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 One after another, the remaining 8 demon kings did not last long before they all collapsed. The true bodies of the dragons had cold expressions. Suddenly, they opened their mouths and took a deep breath. Their chests puffed up and they devoured the demonic chi formed by the 9 demon kings into their stomachs before spitting it out slowly. Scarlet demonic chi surged and changed around the true bodies of the dragons. When the primordial 6 races saw the 9 demon kings collapse, they moved one after another and charged towards the true bodies of the dragons. Just as they were about to close in, the expressions of God Han Ling, the Golden Crow 3rd Prince, Wu Xie, and the other mighty figures of the primordial races changed, and they stopped instinctively. They felt a strong sense of danger, and their scalps went numb. The rumbling demonic chi around the true bodies of the dragons seemed to be nurturing an extremely terrifying existence. "Don't go over!" God Han Ling shouted hurriedly. They could sense this danger at the conjoint body realm. However, many Dharma Daojun of the primordial races were fearless and continued charging towards Su Zimo without stopping. By the time they heard God Han Ling's warning, it was already too late. Right in front of their gazes, demonic chi surged behind the true bodies of the dragons and a blood-colored butterfly gradually appeared. It spread its blood-colored wings with 2 bright moons imprinted on them, glaring at the people of the primordial 6 races like a pair of cold eyes. The blood-colored butterfly was only around 10 feet in size. Compared to the pyramid that was thousands of feet tall behind God Han Ling and the others, it was way too inferior and was as insignificant as a speck of dust. However, the moment the blood-colored butterfly descended, the entire heaven and earth valley fell into dead silence. Thump, thump. Some of the cultivators watching from afar did not kneel when the 9 demon kings descended. They also managed to endure the descent of the ancient pyramid. However, when the blood-colored butterfly descended, those cultivators could no longer hold on. Their bloodlines froze and their legs went limp as they knelt on the ground one after another. In fact, an illusion rose in the hearts of the cultivators. Primordial races, taboos, conjoint body mighty figures and Mahayana patriarchs were all ants in the face of the blood-colored butterfly. If there was a god in the world, it could only be this blood butterfly. Chapter 13-14. What's that? The Golden Crow 3rd Prince's voice trembled, and he had a bewildered expression. The experts of the primordial 6 races were silent. Even in their inherited memories, they had never seen a bloodline phenomenon as such, let alone a blood-colored butterfly. All of a sudden, The blood-colored butterfly flapped its wings. Its movement was extremely light and insignificant. If not for the powerful eyesight of the experts of the primordial 6 races, they would not have been able to see it clearly. But it was the slight tremble of this pair of wings that caused an earth-shattering storm. The surrounding void was twisting, changing shape, collapsing and collapsing. The pyramid formed by the few remaining mighty figures of the god race was also constantly shaking. Countless stones and gravel tumbled down, and cracks appeared on the pyramid. Rumble. Bang. The pyramids that were thousands of feet tall collapsed completely in the blink of an eye, turning into dust and destroyed. The blood-colored butterfly was the ultimate phenomenon of the bloodline of the dragon's true bodies. Back in Myriad Phenomenon City, half of the blood-colored butterfly was illusory and not corporeal. Now that the dragon's true bodies had created 2 more demon kings, they had already cultivated 9 demon kings. More than half of the blood-colored butterfly's figure was corporeal, and its aura was even more terrifying. Some of the Tao lords of the primordial races closest to the dragon's true bodies exploded into blood mists, and their essence spirits were destroyed. This kind of power was simply destructive to them. A single flap of the blood-colored butterfly's wings killed more than 100 Dharma Dao Jun of the primordial races. The entire void was dyed blood red, and blood rained down from the skies. God Han Ling, the Golden Crow Third Prince, and the others were slightly further away. Coupled with the fact that they were at the conjoint body realm, they did not suffer such a terrifying impact. Even so, a few mighty figures of the primordial races shuddered as though they were struck by lightning. Their faces turned pale and they spat out mouthfuls of blood, looking dispirited. These mighty figures couldn't even control their bodies and were on the verge of collapsing. Although they survived, they were obviously crippled. Far away, Heavenly Secret stood in the middle of the crowd, watching this scene unfold. Unlike the shock in the eyes of the other cultivators, although Heavenly Secrets was surprised as well, he still had a faint smile on his face. Interesting. Tianji murmured, "This Araki Takashi is more troublesome than I thought. However, this is also good. The more ruthless you kill, the more intense the battle, the more creatures will fall. Tao Lord Araki Takashi truly is a perfect chess piece." A hint of bloodlust appeared in the depths of Tianji's eyes, but it quickly disappeared. On the battlefield, a crisp sound rang out like a bolt from the blue. God Han Ling sensed something, and his gaze shifted to the heavenly deity Locke. His face instantly darkened. The battle between the heavenly god Locke and the hatred fiend Saber ultimately ended in defeat. The heavenly deity Locke could not withstand the sharpness of the hatred fiend Saber at all. As the chains were shattered, the iron hoop lost its support and was chopped in half by Yen Beichen with a few slashes, falling off the night spirit's neck and limbs. Seeing this, Su Zimo was overjoyed. Night Spirit was finally free. However, this taboo that once dominated the primordial era was paralyzed on the ground with a weak aura and could not move at all. Night Spirit was way too severely injured. His limbs and neck were already a mess of flesh after being locked by the heavenly deity Locke, and his wounds were already rotten. Even if the Night Spirit's bloodline was strong and his regeneration capabilities were shocking, he would have to recuperate for a long time. However, no matter what, as long as Night Spirit was free, Su Zimo would have a way to escape with Night Spirit. "Monster incarnate, you killed so many of my clansmen. I'll make you pay with your blood." Right then, God Han Ling, the Golden Crow Third Prince, and the other experts of the primordial races roared and attacked one after another, launching terrifying attacks towards the blood-colored butterfly. The Golden Crow Third Prince's body burned with the scorching sun god fire, and he transformed into a gigantic fireball that burned with flames. The other Golden Crows released the same move as well. Instantly, it was as though scorching suns appeared beneath the firmaments one after another, carrying streaks of flames that surged towards the blood-colored butterfly. The dermic powers in the void had already dried up. Heavenly deity / Under the lead of God Han Ling, many Protoss channeled dermic arts at the same time and gripped the void with both hands, conjuring a gigantic sword in front of them that slashed towards the blood-colored butterfly with endless sharpness. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Many heavenly eyes opened and countless mysterious runes appeared. Chaos chi filled the air as though the world had just opened. Streaks of dark light tore through the air. Thick blood vines coiled towards the blood-colored butterfly one after another, and blood chi filled the air as the wind howled. Shoo, shoo, shoo. The Rakshasa race relied on their terrifying movement techniques and danced in midair. They wielded sharp curved sabers with both hands and could swoop down at any moment. Many witches chanted and waved the bone staffs in their hands, setting up incantations that were released on the blood-colored butterfly. The primordial 6 races were almost using their full strength. The blood-colored butterfly flapped its wings once more. A storm surged and collided fiercely against the attacks of the primordial 6 races. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out, deafening everyone. Su Zimo, who was in the middle of the battlefield, had just helped Night Spirit up. However, he could not regain his footing and was knocked to the ground instantly. Even the 99 feet tall heaven and earth dharma characteristic beside him dissipated on the spot from the impact of the impact. The blood-colored butterfly gradually dissipated. No matter how strong the bloodline phenomenon was, the cultivation realm of the dragon's true bodies was clear. They were no match for so many experts of the primordial races. The true body of the dragon swayed. Many of the dragon scales on his body fell from the impact this time round, and blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. The impact on the true body of the dragons was not small, and their organs were already shaken. If they were in a chaotic battle, the true body of the dragons would not have withstood such a terrifying and ferocious attack by relying on the speed of their movement techniques to shuttle back and forth. But now, Qinglian's true body and Night Spirit were right behind him. If he left, Qinglian's true body and Night Spirit would die on the spot. Thankfully, Night Spirit was rescued after withstanding the impact. "Brother Yen, come with me." Su Zimo dragged Night Spirit and withdrew a wrinkled beast skin from his storage bag with mysterious and complicated patterns etched on it. This was a treasure given to Su Zimo by an elder of ancient array sect before he entered the Tao inheritance ground. An incomplete formation from the primordial era was etched on it. The formation was extremely complicated. However, if one could comprehend it, they could break through the restrictions of space and teleport cultivators billions of kilometers away. It wouldn't be a problem for them to cross the entire Tianhuang mainland. Of course, the formation was incomplete and had huge flaws. Back then, the elder of ancient array sect released it once. The cultivators who were teleported out never returned, and no one knew where they were teleported to. Su Zimo received more than 30 inheritances in the Tao inheritance ground, and one of them was from a formation grandmaster. After 5,000 years of accumulation, he had already comprehended the formation on the beast skin back in the Tao inheritance ground. This tattered beast skin was his final trump card. Chapter 13-15. Su Zimo channeled his dermic powers and injected them into the tattered beast hide. The formation patterns on it lit up and emitted a mysterious energy fluctuation. "Brother Yen, immortal sword is dead. Leave this place with me first." Su Zimo persuaded once more. More than half of the experts of the primordial 6 races were dead, but there were more than 300 left and more than 20 mighty figures of the primordial races among them. Even Yen Beichen could not defend against such power. Furthermore, heavenly secrets had already vanished in the chaos and no one knew where he went. It was extremely dangerous for Yen Beichen to stay here. He might as well leave with him. Yen Beichen frowned slightly and hesitated. Although Immortal Sword was dead, the number of people he wanted to kill was far from enough. A single Immortal Sword was not enough to accompany Qin Pianran to death. Right then, Su Zimo's expression changed. The formation patterns on the beast hide were completely activated and rich dermic powers lingered around the beast hide as well. However, they could not condense as though they were obstructed by a powerful force. How could this be? Su Zimo's expression changed slightly. Although this was his first time activating this array formation, He had already comprehended it completely back in the Tao inheritance ground. There was no way he would make a mistake. Haha. The Golden Crow Third Prince laughed arrogantly and was extremely smug. Araki Takashi, don't even think about using spatial teleportation. We've already sealed the space here and you won't be able to escape. The Golden Crow Third Prince shouted. Hidden in the crowd, Heavenly Secrets smirked with a mocking expression. Sealing the space of Heaven and Earth Valley was his idea. Initially, the experts of the primordial 6 races were indifferent and disdainful when they heard that suggestion. In their opinion, there was no need to mobilize so many people to deal with a puny human cultivator, even if he was the strongest monster incarnate in history. How could hundreds of experts of the primordial races not be able to suppress the Dharma Daojun of the human race? It was only under Heavenly Secrets' continuous insistence that the Golden Crow Third Prince and the others were persuaded to join forces with him to seal the space of Heaven and Earth Valley. Back in the Tao inheritance ground, Su Zimo had once used the major transference talisman to escape from the hands of a half-martial ancestor. Tianji would never make the same mistake. Su Zimo's heart sank when he heard what the Golden Crow Third Prince said. The space was sealed, which meant that the formation on the beast's skin could not be formed at all. Things like lesser shift talismans and greater shift talismans were also ineffective. If he could not teleport out, even Su Zimo's 2 true bodies would not be able to break out of the encirclement of the primordial 6 races, let alone the severely injured Night Spirit. This was equivalent to completely cutting off Su Zimo's path of retreat. In order to break the spatial seal, one needed to be strong enough and find the spatial seal's node. The current situation was dangerous and the battle had yet to end. How could the primordial 6 races give Su Zimo the time? Moreover, even if he could find the spatial node, with his strength, the dragon's true bodies, and Yen Beichen's strength, it would be difficult to break this spatial seal. At that moment, God Han Ling, the Golden Crow Third Prince, and the others charged forward once more. Instantly, the situation turned extremely disadvantageous for Su Zimo. First, leave. Don't bother about me. Night Spirit's eyes were half opened as it said weakly. Leave. If you want to leave, we'll leave together. Su Zimo rejected without hesitation with a firm tone. The true bodies of the dragons took a deep breath of air and their gazes burned. A divine light burst forth from their glabella and entered the firmaments instantly. The power of divine powers spread. Boom! A deafening sound echoed from the skies. The clouds exploded, and a huge and thick stone pillar rapidly descended from the sky, emitting a terrifying pressure. The stone pillar was grayish-white with a 5-clawed divine dragon crawling on it. It emitted an ancient aura and a wanton might. It was violent and sharp, as though it could suppress all races. This was the second innate divine power that the dragon's true bodies awakened in the Dragon Bone Valley. The gigantic ancestral dragon divine pillar was more than 10,000 feet long and needed hundreds of people to wrap their arms around it. It descended and suppressed the experts of the primordial 6 races that were charging over. The pressure caused the experts of the primordial 6 races to feel suffocated. Some of the Dharma Daojun of the primordial races could not defend against it at all and were crushed into meat paste by the ancestral dragon divine pillar, their essence spirits destroyed. The gigantic ancestral dragon divine pillar was only blocked by the combined forces of some mighty figures of the primordial races. Even so, dozens of primordial races were killed by the ancestral dragon divine pillar. There were only more than 200 of the primordial 6 races present. Ancestral dragon divine pillar. Right then, a sinister voice sounded from among the experts of the primordial races. Wu Xie's expression was dark as he glared at the true bodies of the dragons. Initially, he was only suspicious. However, when he saw the appearance of the ancestral dragon divine pillar, he no longer had any doubts. Back when the true bodies of the dragons awakened this divine power, he was watching from the side. Wu Xie believed that only the young master of the dragons could release this terrifying innate divine power. Wu Xie said slowly, "It's really you. Stop hiding, you're the young master of the dragons." "Old dog." The true bodies of the dragons suddenly shouted and interrupted Wu Xie's words. The true bodies of the dragons could be exposed, but Su Zimo did not want to implicate the dragons and cause them to be surrounded by several primordial races. I have to kill Wu Xie. A vicious look flashed through the eyes of the true bodies of the dragons. If Wu Xie was not dead, the fact that the true bodies of the dragons were the young masters of the dragons would not be able to be concealed. The dragons would definitely be implicated in this matter and might encounter a calamity. Right then, a voice sounded in Su Zimo's ears. The voice was soft and almost inaudible, but it sounded familiar. The voice only said a single word: break. Break. Su Zimo was stunned. What was broken? Immediately after, Su Zimo felt the beast hide in his palm gradually heat up and emit an unusual fluctuation. The dermic powers that were initially lingering around the beast hide were condensing rapidly. A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. The spatial seal here had been broken by someone. Su Zimo was delighted. At that moment, the primordial six races had just clashed head-on with the innate divine power of the ancestral dragon divine pillar, and nobody noticed that the spatial seal had been broken. It was as though apart from Su Zimo, no one else heard that voice. However, Heavenly Secrets, who was watching coldly from the sidelines, noticed Su Zimo's abnormality. Narrowing his eyes, Heavenly Secrets sensed carefully, and his expression changed as he exclaimed in disbelief, "The spatial seal has been broken? How is that possible?" Heavenly Secrets' gaze flickered with a bewildered expression. Although there were some changes in the situation today, it was still within his control. But now, he suddenly felt that the situation seemed to be out of control. With the spatial seal and the intense battle, Araki Takashi did not have the chance to search for the spatial node. Furthermore, Araki Takashi's strength was not enough to break the spatial node, not even with Shura's help. In other words, someone else was the one who broke the spatial node. All of a sudden, Heavenly Secrets shuddered, and his expression turned extremely terrible when he thought of a possibility. Chapter 13:16. Heavenly Secrets thought of something that had happened before. Hellfire Hall's master, Purple Flame, who cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, had once attempted to absorb the bloodlines on the battlefield to recover his blood chi essence. However, it ended in failure. At that time, Heavenly Secrets was confused. He knew that Purple Flame had not cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra to perfection. However, it was definitely not to the extent of failing to absorb the bloodlines. Initially, he wanted to make a move secretly to stop Purple Flame from refining the bloodlines. Who would have thought that Ziyen would fail inexplicably, saving him a lot of trouble? Now that he thought about it, Heavenly Secrets realized that there was another expert hidden in Heaven and Earth Valley when he connected it to the destruction of the spatial seal. There was a high chance that this person had the same motive as him. Right at this moment, a loud shout suddenly sounded out from beside him. "Heavenly Secrets, why are you hiding here?" That shout was extremely loud. Heavenly Secrets was alarmed and turned around to slap a cultivator on the chest, killing him instantly. The cultivator looked at Heavenly Secrets in disbelief with a lost expression. Even in death, he did not know why the person before him would suddenly attack. The crowd dispersed. "No, I killed the wrong person." Heavenly Secrets felt his scalp tingle. Just now, the fallen cultivator had clearly been bewitched by someone and had yelled at the top of his lungs. The mastermind did not appear at all. Heavenly Secrets retracted his smile with a grim expression. As a cultivator of Enigma Palace, he was led by the nose and was in an unprecedented passive state. All of a sudden, Heavenly Secrets sensed something and felt a chill run down his spine. It was as if he had been targeted by an extremely dangerous existence. It was as if there was a thorn in his back. Heavenly Secrets turned around slowly and looked over. In the distant battlefield, a tall and burly figure was speeding over with a saber. His white hair danced and his eyes were pitch black with killing intent. It was Shura Yen Beichen. Initially, Heavenly Secrets was hidden in the crowd and Yen Beichen could not discover him. However, a loud shout suddenly came from the other side, which immediately attracted his attention. Soon after, Tianji attacked violently. The crowd was in chaos and scattered. Yen Beichen easily found Tianji in the crowd. Originally, Yen Beichen was still a little hesitant about whether or not he should leave with Su Zimo. Now that he saw that Tianji was not far away, he no longer hesitated and charged over with the hatred demon saber. Tianji, let's see where you can hide. Hand over your life. Yen Beichen was like the reincarnation of the demon emperor. His murderous aura soared as he strode forward. In the blink of an eye, he had already arrived in front of Tianji and slashed with his saber. Heavenly Secret swung his folding fan and blocked the hatred fiend's saber. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere. Heavenly Secret's arm sank. Shura, who had inherited the Hatred Sutra, might have just stepped into the body integration realm, but not many people could stop him in terms of combat strength. Heavenly Secrets believed that in a one-on-one fight, his methods were not weaker than God Han Ling, the Golden Crow Third Prince, and the others of the primordial 6 races. However, he still found it troublesome against Yen Beichen. That was because Yen Beichen was a complete lunatic. He was not afraid of death or injury. He would rather take a blow from Heavenly Secrets and poke a bloody hole in Heavenly Secrets' body. In the blink of an eye, both sides exchanged more than 10 blows. Yen Beichen was fighting with an internecine outcome and a life for a life. Heavenly Secrets' folding fan had once struck Yen Beichen's leg heavily, crippling his left leg and breaking his tendons and bones. However, Yen Beichen did not seem to feel any pain. Instead, his expression turned even more vicious and the hatred fiend chi on his body surged even more intensely. Heavenly Secrets did not know that the pain of his physical body could not compare to 1,000th of the pain in Yen Beichen's heart. The pain of his physical body would only reduce the pain in his heart slightly. Heavenly Secrets' cultivation had already reached the perfected conjoint body realm. In terms of pure strength, he was even stronger than Yen Beichen. However, after more than 10 rounds, Heavenly Secrets truly did not want to fight anymore. Yen Beichen had dozens of bones broken by Heavenly Secrets, but he was still fearless as he fought with a limp. His body was already covered in injuries. The most serious wound was a saber wound on his left abdomen. Thankfully, he retreated in time. Otherwise, he would have been pierced by that attack. As time passed by, the might of the Hatred Fiend's saber was gradually revealed. The Hatred Fiend chi could even corrode and tarnish an ancient unique treasure like the Mystic Magnet Mountain and shield its power. When the blade sliced through Heavenly Secrets' wound, what sort of damage would the remnant Hatred Fiend chi cause to his flesh? Heavenly Secrets could clearly see that the wounds on his body were already rotting. Shura, why are you looking for me instead of saving Araki Takashi? Heavenly Secrets was enraged, but he suppressed it forcefully and questioned in a deep voice. I want you to pay with your life. Yen Beichen said word by word with a cold gaze that could devour Heavenly Secrets alive. Heavenly Secrets realized that it was impossible for him to shake off Yen Beichen easily. If he used an escape technique to escape, he would naturally be able to shake off Yen Beichen. However, his plans here would be for naught. Since that's the case, I'll send you down to reunite with that woman. A scarlet glint shone in Heavenly Secrets' eyes as he channeled a mental cultivation technique. His body seemed to have turned into a gigantic black hole that absorbed the rich bloodline in the battlefield endlessly. The Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Heavenly Secrets knew the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra as well. Furthermore, the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra that he cultivated was clearly much stronger than the one released by Purple Flames. Heavenly Secrets racked his brains and implicated many factions to make use of the fight for the Dharma characteristic ranking. In fact, even the primordial 6 races and the primordial taboo were involved. Even Tao Lord Araki Takashi became his pawn to set up this shocking scheme for the sake of absorbing the bloodline of this place. The more living beings that died in Heaven and Earth Valley and the richer their bloodline, the more beneficial it would be for him. Therefore, when he saw Purple Flames channeling the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra to absorb the bloodline of this place, he naturally wanted to interrupt. That was equivalent to snatching food from his mouth. Heavenly Secrets would not allow anyone to taint the bloodline of this place. Initially, Heavenly Secrets wanted to hide in the dark and circulate his fiend technique to absorb and refine the bloodline of this place after the battle was over. But now, Yen Beichen was pushing him too hard and he could no longer care about anything else. Heavenly Secrets had just absorbed a small amount of bloodline when his expression changed starkly. His connection with the bloodline underground was severed by a sudden external force. The mastermind had attacked again. It's him! Suddenly, Heavenly Secrets recalled the identity of that person and could not help but widen his eyes in rage, trembling from head to toe. Up till this point of his cultivation, he had never lost his composure as such. That was because he had just realized that the shocking scheme that he had painstakingly set up and the rich power of bloodline that he had accumulated might have ended up benefiting someone else. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. He was merely the mantis. The mastermind behind the scenes was the oriole. Ouch! Heavenly Secrets shouted in a fluster. Coupled with the fact that he was injured, his blood chi surged and he could not control it, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 13-17. Changes happened instantly on the battlefield. The spatial seal was broken and Heavenly Secrets appeared. Yen Beichen chased after Heavenly Secrets and a huge battle broke out. On the other side, the formation patterns on the beast hide lit up and the teleportation dermic formation gradually took form. A gigantic dermic power vortex appeared faintly, pitch black and deep. No one knew where it led to. The dermic power vortex was a spatial tunnel formed on the beast hide formation patterns. As long as one leaped into it, they would be able to break through the restraints of space and leave this place. Su Zimo could leave at any time. However, there was something he had to do before he left. That was to kill Wu Xie. This variable had to be killed or there would be endless trouble in the future. Everyone hurry and attack. Stop Araki Takashi. His spatial tunnel is about to form and we can't let him escape. God Han Ling shouted. There was no need for his reminder. The other experts of the primordial races had already attacked. If Araki Takashi and the primordial taboo were to leave, the consequences would be way too terrifying. We have to kill those 3 beasts here. A mighty figure of the Bloodvine race said sternly. The primordial 6 races suffered heavy losses in this battle and the Bloodvine race was the most miserable. The true bodies of the dragons descended with Baron and the Dharma Daojun of the Bloodvine race was almost completely wiped out. In a few breaths, his lifespan was exhausted and he died. There were only a few mighty figures of the Bloodvine race left and they naturally hated the true bodies of the dragons to the core. You want to kill me? The true bodies of the dragons had cold expressions and leaped up. Instead of retreating, they advanced towards the crowd of the primordial 6 races and said coldly, I want to kill you guys too. The true bodies of the dragons charged towards Wu Xie with a cold killing intent in their eyes that were as sharp as blades. Humph! Wu Xie had long sensed it and retreated swiftly, sneering, Why? You want to kill me to silence me after I saw through your secret? As long as he distanced himself from the true bodies of the dragons would fall into the encirclement of the primordial 6 races and fight separately from Qinglian's true body. At that time, Qinglian's true body would only have 2 choices. If they stayed behind, both of their true bodies might be buried here. Otherwise, he could leave with the night spirit first. However, the fate of the dragon's true bodies was obvious. Still trying to escape? The eyes of the true body of the dragons narrowed, and the space between their eyebrows flickered. An enormous divine sense continuously condensed and compressed, and a heart-palpitating divine sense fluctuation spread out. A palm-sized crimson scale slowly floated out from between the eyebrows of the dragon's true bodies. It was in the shape of a crescent moon and looked very ordinary. But when this dragon scale appeared, the entire world seemed to tremble. Space seemed to freeze. The experts of the primordial 6 races that were charging towards Su Zimo paused. The pupils of the Golden Crow Third Prince, God Han Ling, and the others contracted violently. They felt an extremely terrifying aura from this dragon scale. The only essence spirit secret skill in the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, reverse scale. This essence spirit mystic technique had only been released twice ever since the true bodies of dragons started cultivating it. That was because this essence spirit mystic technique was way too terrifying. In the Dragon Bone Valley, many dragons' elders did not allow the true bodies of dragons to use it. The dragon scale appeared and flew towards Wu Xie slowly. The dragon scale was not fast. However, for some reason, no matter how Wu Xie retreated, he could not widen the distance between him and the dragon scale. Instead, it was getting closer and closer. It's just an essence spirit mystic skill. What's there to fear? Golden light shone from God Han Ling's glabella as he released the Protasis essence spirit mystic skill as well. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The experts of the primordial 6 races attacked one after another and released essence spirit mystic skills towards the dragon scale. You're courting death by using essence spirit mystic skills in front of the witch race. A few mighty figures of the witch race hollered as well and released their essence spirit mystic skills right away. The primordial 9 races each had their own strengths. In terms of essence spirit cultivation and essence spirit mystic skills, the witch race was the strongest. Among the primordial 9 races, the witch race had an ordinary bloodline. Their bodies were the weakest and their lifespans were not long either. However, the reason why they were able to dominate the primordial era and be ranked as one of the primordial 9 races was because of their many essence spirit mystic skills. Not only were those mystic skills powerful, they were also strange and impossible to guard against. Essence spirit mystic skills descended one after another and struck the scarlet dragon scale. Immediately after, a scene that shocked everyone occurred. After the essence spirit mystic skills made contact with the dragon scale, the experts of the primordial races who attacked fell from midair one after another. Before his body landed on the ground, the life force in his body had already completely dissipated. They were dead. In the blink of an eye, more than 100 experts of the primordial races who attacked were all dead without exception. Even God Han Ling's eyes were widened with a stiff expression. There were no injuries on his face, but his essence spirit had already shattered in his consciousness. God Han Ling tilted his head and fell from midair, dead. Anyone who touched the reverse scale of a dragon would die. The dragon scale could not be touched or one would die. Of course, with so many essence spirit mystic skills striking the reverse scale, the dragon scale was already filled with cracks and was about to collapse. At that moment, the reverse scale had already arrived before Wu Xie. Right from the beginning, Wu Xie did not attack and merely wanted to dodge. That was because he had lived for so many years and had an extremely deep understanding of the essence spirit. He could sense an extremely dangerous aura from the scale. That was the reason why he did not attack. But now Wu Xie could no longer dodge. Good. Wu Xie said coldly, "You won't be able to live even if you want me to die. Your 2 clones go to hell." In Wu Xie's consciousness, his dark green essence spirit expanded continuously and cracks appeared on his body. He was about to explode. Life-severing curse. Wu Xie hollered. In his consciousness, his essence spirit exploded and released an extremely terrifying and massive spirit consciousness, condensing a forbidden skill of the witch race. The life-severing curse was a forbidden skill of the witch race. That was because the prerequisite for releasing the life-severing curse was the self-destruction of one's essence spirit. The moment he self-destructed, he would be able to complete the life-severing curse by obtaining a massive spirit consciousness. It could be said that the curse was exchanging a life for a life. The expressions of the Golden Crow Third Prince and the others changed when they heard the words life-severing curse. In the primordial era, although the witch race had a weak physique and bloodline among the primordial 9 races, the other races were unwilling to provoke them. That was because the witch race had some secret skills that required the sacrifice of their own lives. Once the witch race went crazy, the other races would not be able to withstand it. For example, even half-martial ancestors of the primordial races might not be able to defend against the life-severing curse released by the self-destruction of his conjoint body mighty figure essence spirit. Wu Xie knew that he was going to die. Therefore, before he died, he wanted the true bodies of the dragons and Qinglian to be buried with him. The life-severing curse descended upon the consciousnesses of the dragons and Qinglian instantly. It appeared out of thin air and targeted their essence spirits directly. It was impossible to defend against. Even if Qinglian's true body carried an essence spirit dermic weapon like the Mingwang prayer beads, she could not defend against the life-severing curse. That was the terror of the witch race. Wu Xie's essence spirit protected itself, and his remnant spirit consciousness was still shouting maniacally. With a menacing expression, he widened his eyes, wanting to see the tragic outcome of Su Zimo's two true bodies. Chapter 13:18. Qinglian's true body shuddered. In his consciousness, a dark green mist descended with an extremely evil aura and engulfed Su Zimo's black-haired essence spirit. At that moment, the black-haired essence spirit was seated on the creation lotus platform. Sensing danger, he stood up and roared into the skies as his consciousness churned. 54 Qinglian seeds transformed into rays of light and spewed out, forming a green sword in front of the black-haired essence spirit. Slay! The black-haired essence spirit hollered. Qinglian's sword slashed down viciously towards the dark green mist that was surging over. Exclamation point! The dark green mist was sliced into two instantly. It was clear that much of the evil aura was destroyed by Qinglian's sword. The mist that was sliced into two continued floating without any signs of stopping as it continued to engulf the black-haired essence spirit. Pissed, Su Zimo was alarmed. Ever since he cultivated Qinglian's sword to greater mastery, it could be said to be an unparalleled killing technique that targeted the essence spirit and had always been successful. To think that it would not be able to destroy the life-severing curse. It was not because Qinglian's sword was not strong enough. However, there was a major cultivation realm difference between them after all. Furthermore, Wu Xie sacrificed his life and self-destructed his essence spirit to complete the curse. How could it be defended against so easily? The black-haired essence spirit controlled Qinglian's sword and slashed repeatedly, wanting to block the path of the dark green mist. The sharp edge of the sword sliced the mist into pieces and its color dimmed significantly. However, it still could not suppress the evil power of the mist completely. In the end, the green mist still enveloped the black-haired origin spirit. Su Zimo grunted and felt as though his essence spirit was stuck by something. He could not even release his spirit consciousness. Although Qinglian's sword did not manage to dispel the life-severing curse completely, it managed to defend against most of its power. Otherwise, the black-haired essence spirit would dissipate within a few breaths if the dark green mist came into contact with it. Of course, the power of the life-severing curse still enveloped the black-haired essence spirit. Even Su Zimo did not know what the consequences would be. What he was truly worried about was the true bodies of the dragons. Unlike Qinglian's true bodies, apart from the essence spirit's secret skill, the reverse scale, the dragons' true bodies did not have a killing weapon like Qinglian's sword. The true bodies of the dragon race mostly relied on their physical bodies and lifeblood to fight. They rarely relied on dharma artifacts. The life-severing curse, the true body spirit, the body's life-severing curse, essence spirit, the essence spirit's essence spirit and essence spirit, at the same time, the few mighty figures of the witch race who were still alive attacked one after another and released their essence spirit secret skills against the dragon true body. Deicide curse. Essence spirit, essence's spirit, essence spirit, although it was not as powerful as the life-severing curse, it was equally impossible to guard against. It was a strange curse that descended upon a cultivator's consciousness and wiped out their essence spirit. The spirit-slaying curse and life-severing curse descended at the same time. Within the sea of consciousness of the dragon race true form, there were 3 fist-sized balls of light that surrounded the dragon race true form. Each of the balls of light emitted a terrifying aura. No one knew what was being nurtured within them. Beneath the balls of light was an ocean that was dark, cold, and deep. The desolate sea of the vast wilderness was condensed from the massive spirit consciousnesses of the dragon's true bodies. The dark green mist formed by the life-severing curse descended upon the consciousness and fused into the desolate sea instantly, dyeing the black surface of the sea a sinister green. At the same time, the spirit-slaying curse descended and formed spirit-slaying storms that swept through the surface of the sea, creating raging waves. The two curses swept up torrential green waves that engulfed the scarlet-haired essence spirit with a terrifying might, as though they wanted to devour it completely. All of a sudden, in the depths of the desolate sea, a massive living being awakened and floated to the surface of the sea slowly. The first thing that floated to the surface of the sea was an incomparably tough turtle shell that resembled the firmament. It was filled with coarse cracks that crisscrossed without any pattern, as though it contained the secrets of heaven and earth. Immediately after, a pair of divine eyes opened and emitted a chilling gaze. The torrential waves that were just created in the desolate sea calmed down instantly. It was the sea-calming turtle. In the desolate sea of the upper world, the spirit turtle would usually hide in the depths of the desolate sea silently and almost never appear. However, the moment it appeared, even the overlord of the desolate sea dragon king, could not stir up any waves. The sea-calming turtle looked down at the surface of the sea that was dyed green, and a hint of rage appeared in the depths of its eyes. Suddenly, it reared its head and howled. Swoosh! A massive spirit consciousness fluctuation burst forth and swept through the entire surface of the sea. The spirit-slaying storms dissipated instantly, and even the green surface of the sea returned to normal, turning dark once more. The power of the life-severing curse and spirit-slaying curse was suppressed by the sea-calming turtle before it could even touch a single strand of hair of the scarlet-haired essence spirit. Suddenly, the expressions of the mighty figures of the witch race changed. Not only did the sea-calming turtle suppress their spirit-slaying curses, it even released a terrifying spirit consciousness fluctuation as it roared and retaliated. The mighty figures of the witch race suffered a backlash from their essence spirits and spat out blood one after another. They fell from midair with haggard expressions. Although the mighty figures of the witch race managed to survive, their essence spirits were severely injured and it was difficult for them to advance their cultivation. They did not have many years left to live. Although the entire process sounded slow, it happened in the blink of an eye. Wu Xie's eyes widened in disbelief. The scene that he had initially expected did not happen. Qinglian's true body was not dead. Even the true bodies of the dragons were not dead. It was clear that the expression of Qinglian's true body dimmed. Even if she was not dead, she was definitely not in a good state after being cursed by him. However, why was there nothing wrong with the true bodies of the dragons? All those spirit-slaying curses and the life-severing curse that he released after sacrificing his life disappeared just like that? How is that possible? That was the last thought that Wu Xie had in this world. The next moment, his remnant spirit consciousness dissipated as well, leaving behind a corpse that fell from midair. He was dead. Right then, a change happened. The expression of the true bodies of the dragons changed as they leaped. Although he avoided his vitals, he was still a step too slow and was pierced from the back by the curved saber of a mighty figure of the Rakshasa race. The bloody tip of the saber protruded from his chest with fresh blood dripping. Although Wu Xie's life-severing curse and the spirit-slaying curses could not kill the true bodies of the dragons, the moment their essence spirits clashed, it affected the spirit perception of the true bodies of the dragons. That was the reason why a mighty figure of the Rakshasa race closed in on him. The saber pierced the true bodies of the dragons and their blood chi drained rapidly. The true bodies of the dragons were enraged and threw the bronze square tripod in reverse, smashing it towards the mighty figure of the Rakshasa race. Hee. The mighty figure of the Rakshasa race had already drawn his curved saber and flapped his wings to leave, avoiding Su Zimo's counterattack. I can't stay here any longer. The thought flashed through the mind of the true bodies of the dragons as he clutched his chest. Wu Xie was already dead and he had to leave as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the remaining experts of the primordial 6 races had already surrounded him and severed his connection with Qinglian's true body completely. Furthermore, some of the primordial races charged towards Qinglian's true body. Chapter 1319. Araki Takashi, let's see where you can escape to. The Golden Crow Third Prince said coldly, you won't be able to survive today no matter where you go. Your clone of the dragons shall die here as well. At that moment, the experts of the primordial 6 races could already tell that the scarlet-haired alien was Su Zimo's clone. The more that was the case, the more they could not let Su Zimo leave. It was not only because too many of the primordial 6 races had died today and suffered heavy losses. More than that, it was because in the hearts of the primordial races, Tao Lord Araki Takashi was even more terrifying than the primordial taboo. Kill! The Golden Crow Third Prince reared his head and howled. His body burned with golden sun god fire as he extended his third claw and grabbed the head of the dragon's true body. The Golden Crow race was also known as the 3-legged Golden Crows. Among the 3 legs below the abdomen, the third leg was the strongest and could tear apart all beasts and pierce through everything. Furthermore, the sun god fire burned on the third leg was also the purest and hottest. It was the essence of the sun god fire. The true body of the dragons took a deep breath of air and let out a deep roar. With a cold gaze, he suddenly extended his right hand and grabbed the third leg of the Golden Crow Third Prince. You must have a death wish. The Golden Crow Third Prince said coldly with a cold expression. He believed that even if the true body of the dragons used its dragon claws, it would not be able to withstand the killing power and flames of his third leg. Right now, the palm extended by the true body of the dragons looked fair and tender, no different from a human's palm. It was extremely weak and posed no threat at all. Strange, why does the palm of the dragon's clone look like this? That thought flashed through the mind of the Golden Crow Third Prince, but he did not think too much about it. In fact, the other experts of the primordial races did not know why the true body of the dragons would use such a weak palm to fight against the third leg of the Golden Crow Third Prince. It was no different from striking a rock with an egg. However, some cultivators standing far away guessed the truth. I've got it. A cultivator whispered, the reason why the right hand of the dragon's clone looks like this is because his right palm is the divine phoenix bone. Ah, I almost forgot about this supreme treasure. Back then, when the primordial chaos sect's half-martial ancestor attacked, Araki Takashi was severely injured and his body was crippled. Everyone thought that the divine phoenix bone had been lost. From the looks of it, the divine phoenix bone is most likely on this clone of the dragons. Do you mean that Araki Takashi's clone can already use the power of the divine phoenix bone? Just as the cultivators were discussing, a sudden change occurred on the battlefield. Just as the palm of the true body of the dragons was about to touch the third leg of the Golden Crow Third Prince, a loud phoenix cry suddenly sounded in the void. Screech! This phoenix cry carried with it a boundless pressure that could pierce through metal and crack stone. It was as resounding as the clouds and clearly entered the ears of every cultivator. The crowd of cultivators trembled in fear. The roars of dragons and the cries of phoenixes were something that human cultivators felt deep in their blood. Even the hearts of the experts of the primordial 6 races shuddered. Immediately after, a power that could destroy all living beings and incinerate all races spread out with a scorching aura that was suffocating. The right hand of the true body of the dragons had already vanished completely. In its place was a gigantic and menacing claw that was scarlet and almost transparent, burning with shocking divine flames. Instantly, the world trembled and the weather changed. The divine flames danced and the void distorted, burning until cracks appeared one after another. This claw that was burning with divine flames seemed to have come from a true deity, and it could burn this entire world into ashes. The divine phoenix claw. Prior to this, Su Zimo had relied on the divine phoenix bone to avert danger several times. However, he could not truly channel the power of the divine phoenix bone. Ever since the true body of the dragons entered the Dharma characteristic realm, he could use the power of the divine phoenix bone to conjure the true divine phoenix claw. Although the third leg of the Golden Crow Third Prince was menacing and sharp, it was far inferior compared to the divine phoenix claw. The immortal divine phoenix was a god of the upper world and was above the Golden Crow race in terms of status and bloodline. Even the flames on the third leg of the golden crow could not compare to the divine flames surrounding the divine phoenix claw. The golden crow race only controlled the sun god fire. However, the immortal divine phoenix controlled the flames of all races. If the flames on the third leg of the golden crow were considered a candle, the divine flames on the divine phoenix claw were a blazing sun. What is that? The golden crow third prince's eyes widened in shock. He actually felt great fear from this claw that was burning with divine flames. Even the sun god fire on his third leg was suppressed instantly, as though it did not dare to fight against the blazing divine flames. Hurry and retreat. The golden crow third prince shrieked and flapped his wings to escape rapidly. Unfortunately, just now, both he and the true body of the dragons had attacked with their full strength. By the time he reacted, the divine phoenix claw had already collided with his third leg. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The golden sun god fire and scarlet divine phoenix flames collided and corroded continuously, letting out a strange sound. In the blink of an eye, the sun god fire was completely devoured by the divine phoenix flames. The power of a god was not to be provoked. Come down. The true body of the dragons hollered and retracted the divine phoenix claw. The sharp claws pierced through the flesh of the third leg and pulled down fiercely. The third leg of the golden crow was almost crushed by the divine phoenix claw. The golden crow third prince knew very well that he would definitely die if he was dragged down by the true body of the dragons. He was also a ruthless character. In a flash, the golden crow third prince made a decision. He used all his strength to flap his wings and escape. Shing! A blood mist spewed out and filled the void with a scorching temperature. The blood was burning with flames. It was the blood of the golden crow race. The divine phoenix claw tore the third leg of the golden crow third prince from his abdomen. Ah! The golden crow third prince's face turned pale as he let out a tragic cry. Transforming into a streak of golden light, he fled without turning back. For humans, at the conjoint body realm, they could regrow a severed arm in the blink of an eye. However, for the golden crow race, the third leg was the strongest leg of their bloodline. Once it was severed, it would be difficult to recover. It would require a long period of nourishment before it could regrow. It was the same for the heavenly eye of the heavenly eye race. Once the heavenly eye was blinded, it was extremely difficult to recover. The golden crow third prince came all the way from the East Ocean and had not expected to suffer such a severe blow in Tianhuang mainland. He no longer wanted to bother about the primordial taboo or Tao Lord Araki Takashi. Right now, he only wanted to escape Tianhuang mainland and return to the East Ocean as soon as possible. The true body of the dragons ignored the escaping golden crow third prince and raised the divine phoenix claw, grabbing towards the experts of the primordial races ahead. Divine flames surged and engulfed the primordial 6 races. Chapter 1320. Some experts of the primordial races could not dodge in time and were grabbed by the divine phoenix's claws. They were either torn into 2 or burned to ashes by the divine flames. Among them, a mighty figure of the Bloodvine race was also burned to ashes by the terrifying divine flames on the divine phoenix's claws. The Bloodvine race was a spirit formed from plants to begin with, and flames were the most lethal to them. Although the Bloodvine race was one of the primordial 9 races and ordinary flames could not hurt them, the flames that were burning were the flames of the divine phoenix. Even the sun god fire was suppressed by the divine phoenix's flames. This was a complete suppression of strength. The divine phoenix's claws cleared the path ahead and divine flames surged. The primordial 6 races dodged one after another, not daring to face it head-on. In the blink of an eye, the true bodies of the dragons had already returned to the side of Qinglian's true body. The divine phoenix's claws danced and repelled a few primordial races that were attacking Qinglian's true body. The true bodies of the dragons were already exhausted after charging over. Blood flowed profusely from the wound on their chests and scattered on the ground. Su Zimo's 2 true bodies gathered and prepared to leap into the pitch-black dermic power vortex to escape. The black-haired essence spirit was tainted with the life-severing curse, and Qinglian's true body's face was a little withered. She was not in a good state. He could not linger here. At that moment, Misty Peak, 100 Refinement sect, and other sects that were related to Su Zimo had already left. As for Yen Beichen, he had already disappeared from Su Zimo's sight as he chased after heavenly secrets. He could not care less and could only take Night Spirit away first. We can't let them escape. The remaining experts of the primordial races hollered and attacked one after another. In order to kill Night Spirit this time round, the primordial 6 races mobilized close to 1,000 experts, and the weakest among them was at the Dharma characteristic realm. However, it was acceptable that more than 100 of them died in the process of chasing after Night Spirit. But now, there were only slightly more than 100 experts of the primordial 6 races left. Such a huge loss had never happened since the ancient war. Given the foundation of the primordial 6 races, it was nothing much for those experts to die. However, apart from facing the ancient emperors, the experts of the primordial 6 races had never encountered such a huge setback. The reason why the primordial races chose to walk out of the forbidden grounds in this era was because they had a premonition that the providence of the human race was declining. The chance for them to regain control of Tianhuang mainland had arrived. However, he did not expect that the experts of the primordial races would suffer such a blow as soon as they appeared. They were almost completely wiped out. They absolutely could not accept this result. He had to kill Dao Lord Araki Takashi and the primordial taboo. Woo-woo. The remaining members of the Heaven-Eyed tribe opened their heaven-eyed eyes and unleashed their full power. Streaks of black light tore through the air and struck toward the dragon's true bodies, Qinglian's true body, and Night Spirit. The remaining experts of the Protoss, Bloodvine race, Witch race, Golden Crow race, and Rakshasa race attacked one after another as well, attacking the dermic power vortex with all their might. Although the dragon's true bodies could move and dodge, the dermic power vortex could not. As long as the dermic power vortex was destroyed and the teleportation formation was destroyed, Dao Lord Araki Takashi and the other 2 would not be able to escape. Boom! Right then, a loud bang sounded from the firmaments and a gigantic crack appeared. Immediately after, a figure flickered within. Although it was tiny, it emitted a terrifying might. Its black hair danced and its body shone faintly, causing the entire world to tremble. That power had completely surpassed the conjoint body realm. The cultivators raised their heads and looked at the figure above the firmaments with shocked expressions. Their eyes were filled with endless shock as they held their breaths. Ancestor realm. That power was definitely at the ancestor realm. Even the experts of the primordial 6 races frowned slightly. A half-martial ancestor of the human race? A Protoss mighty figure frowned. Could this half-martial ancestor be here to save Araki Takashi? Judging from the half-martial ancestor's dermic robes and aura, he should be from Chaos Essence sect. However, Chaos Essence sect seems to have an extremely deep feud with Araki Takashi. Right then, the figure in midair spoke slowly. Araki Takashi, you destroyed the bloodline of my D-clan and allowed you to live for so long. Today, it's time for you to pay with your blood. Every single word of the half-martial ancestor exuded a powerful might that caused the void to tremble. Ah, it's the D-clan's half-martial ancestor. I got it. The D-clan's half-martial ancestor was the one who attacked the Dao inheritance ground. If not for the ancestor realm expert from the Dragon Burial Valley, Araki Takashi would have died long ago. The previous time in the Dao inheritance ground, the D-clan's half-martial ancestor did not appear and only attacked from afar. Today, he actually descended with his true body. Seems like Araki Takashi is destined for this calamity. He won't be able to survive today. Defend. Su Zimo's expression darkened. Boom. D-Fan extended his palm and pressed down in Su Zimo's direction through the void. Great Chaos Essence Palm. How powerful was the Great Chaos Essence Palm released with the power of a half-martial ancestor? Fine cracks began to appear in the space around them. Even space could not withstand it. At the same time, the attacks of the experts of the primordial races had already descended and enveloped Su Zimo's two true bodies and night spirit instantly. Right now, the only ones who could still fight were the true bodies of the dragons. The true bodies of the dragons could not retreat. The moment he retreated, the teleportation formation behind him would be destroyed. Once the teleportation formation collapsed, his path of retreat would be completely severed. However, against the attacks of so many primordial races and the power of half-martial ancestors, the divine phoenix's claw alone could not defend against them. There was only a single possibility for him to defend against this attack. The true bodies of the dragons waved their hands and drew a semicircle on both sides of their bodies. Finally, they gathered in front of their chests and changed their fingers, conjuring hand seals and drawing in front of their chests. A divine light burst forth from his glabella and entered his hands. After doing that, the true bodies of the dragons withered instantly and their essence spirits ached. They had already pushed their essence spirits to their limits. Condense! The true bodies of the dragons hollered softly. Buzz! A divine power that shook heaven and earth descended. In front of the true bodies of the dragons, a gigantic stone shield appeared with a wave of his hands. It was rough and ancient with curved patterns carved on it in a mysterious manner. The stone shield was like an ancient turtle shell. What's that? Another innate divine power? If I remember correctly, Araki Takashi's dragon's clone has already released 2 innate divine powers. This should be the third, right? Even the primordial 6 races present were shocked, let alone the cultivators in the distance. That divine power was one of the 4 great divine powers recorded in the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness, Spirit Turtle Shield. Back in the Dragon Bone Valley, the dragon's clone released it once in the fight against the Longsong. However, the true bodies of the dragons had just awakened this innate divine power and had yet to comprehend it completely. As such, only a small portion of the complicated and mysterious patterns on the Spirit Turtle Shield shone with a faint glow. Even so, the Spirit Turtle Shield defended against Long Tsong's 5th claw. But now, the patterns on the Spirit Turtle Shield had lit up completely. The true bodies of the dragons had already cultivated this innate divine power to perfection. Actually, the reason why they were able to cultivate this innate divine power to perfection in such a short period of time was not only because the true bodies of the dragons were extremely talented and cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness all year round. More than that, it was also because Su Zimo had conjured the turtle-snake phenomenon when he advanced to the Jindan realm, and there were patterns on the back of the black tortoise as well. That was the reason why the true bodies of the dragons were able to cultivate this innate divine power to perfection at the fastest speed. Chapter 1321. The moment the Spirit Turtle Shield was formed, Su Zimo leaped into the dermic power vortex with Night Spirit in his arms. Almost at the same time, the attacks of the experts of the primordial 6 races and D-Fan's Great Chaos Essence Palm landed on the Spirit Turtle Shield. Boom! There was a deafening bang. A bedazzling light burst forth from the point of collision, forming a semicircular light barrier that expanded rapidly in all directions. The mud on the ground churned and sand and rocks flew. Rumble! Boom! Cracks appeared on the mountains around Heaven and Earth Valley, and they collapsed one after another. Countless boulders rolled down and the mountains collapsed. Even the cultivators who had already hidden far away to watch the battle felt deafened instantly and could not hear anything. The power released by that collision was way too strong. Some conjoint body mighty figures were pale. Notwithstanding the power at the center of the collision, even the remnant power that spread out could kill them if they could not dodge in time. The power of a half-martial ancestor is practically destroying the world. Tao Lord Araki Takashi will definitely die against such a terrifying power. As the cultivators discussed, they tried their best to keep their eyes open and look towards the center of the battlefield. Amidst the billowing dust, a blurry figure could be vaguely seen. His hair was scarlet like flames, and although his legs were deeply buried in the mud, his spine was still upright and refused to bend. He's not dead yet? The experts of the primordial 6 races looked at everything in disbelief. That turtle shell was able to defend against such a terrifying attack. If a half-martial ancestor of the human race was here, he would be smashed into dregs as well. Su Zimo rejoiced internally. Thankfully, he was the first to awaken the pure defensive innate divine power of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. Most likely, only the divine powers of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness could defend against that attack. Otherwise, there were no methods, dermic weapons, divine powers or trump cards that could defend against that attack with his 2 true bodies. Although the bronze square tripod was indestructible, the remnant power was enough to shatter the true bodies of the dragons hiding within. Of course, although the spirit turtle shield had blocked most of the power, it was still the full-powered attack of more than 100 primordial races and half-martial ancestors. The true bodies of the dragons did not have it easy either. The dragons' true bodies supported the spirit turtle shield with both hands. Most of the dragon scales on their bodies had fallen off and fresh blood seeped out. This time, his bones and tendons felt like they were about to break. He could no longer feel his arms, and his chest was badly mangled. His chi and blood were severely depleted, and he had almost no strength left. Cracks had already appeared on the spirit turtle shield. This wasn't a crack on the tortoise shell, it was really broken. Not dead yet? Fan attacked again. The true bodies of the dragons used the last of their strength to pull their legs out of the soil. They leaped into the magic vortex behind them and disappeared. Fan transformed into a huge palm and instantly reached into the vortex of mana, wanting to capture the true bodies of the dragons. Back when Su Zimo tore apart the major transference talisman, Fan chased after him into the spatial tunnel and crippled Su Zimo's body. However, this time round, Fan's expression changed. When his palm entered the dermic power vortex, it was as though he had sunk into a bottomless ocean, a mysterious and vast starry sky. The true bodies of the dragons were like specks of dust within. He could not capture them at all. Although this beast hide was incomplete, it was engraved with an ancient teleportation formation that was much more advanced than the major transference talisman. If a Mahayana patriarch were to attack, he might be able to capture the traces of the true bodies of the dragons. He could not sense the power of a half-martial ancestor. Fan retracted his palm and his gaze flickered with a furious expression. As a half-martial ancestor, the Dharma Daojun was as insignificant as an ant in his eyes. However, he had attacked twice and even his true body had descended this time round. Yet, this ant still managed to escape right under his nose. Let's see where you can escape to. Fan was enraged and attacked brazenly. The great chaos essence palm descended onto the dermic power vortex like a gigantic millstone. The 3 of you can stay in the void turbulence forever. Boom. The dermic power vortex could not withstand it and was shattered by the great chaos essence palm instantly. It collapsed and turned into nothingness before vanishing. Once the spatial tunnel shattered, it would mean that the teleportation failed and the person being teleported would be exiled into the dark and cold void turbulence without light. They might never be able to return to Tianhuang mainland. That was not all. The void turbulence was extremely frightening and even the bodies of some conjoint body mighty figures would be torn into pieces easily if they entered. Fan's expression was cold. Although he did not manage to kill Su Zimo personally, banishing the 3 of them to the endless void was enough to vent the hatred in his heart. Su Zimo's 2 true bodies and night spirit were behind the spatial tunnel. Suddenly, they felt a terrifying external force descend and the spatial tunnel shattered instantly. The true bodies of the dragons were pulled away by a powerful suction force and disappeared before Qinglian's true body uncontrollably. Qinglian's true body was alarmed. He hurriedly took off his storage bag and threw it into his consciousness. Immediately after, a powerful void turbulence surged in and started attacking Qinglian's true body and night spirit. Ah! Qinglian's true body shouted and felt as though his entire body was being torn apart. Even with the toughness of Qinglian's true body, he felt as though he was about to be torn into pieces by the omnipresent tearing force. He could not control his body and arms at all and only felt his embrace lighten. He and Night Spirit were completely scattered by the void turbulence. Under the gaze of Qinglian's true body, Night Spirit quickly sank into the depths of the dark and cold void and disappeared. Under this terrifying tearing force, his consciousness gradually sank as well. Suddenly, a sacred Buddhist light descended and landed on his body, forming a golden barrier on the surface of Qinglian's true body. A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. However, he lost consciousness immediately after and floated in the dark and cold void. In a daze, Su Zimo's consciousness did not wake up. His surroundings were sometimes cold and sometimes warm. Sometimes, it was as though he was in an endless abyss that kept sinking. Other times, it was as though he was floating on a boundless sea. After an unknown period of time, Su Zimo's consciousness gradually returned. Although he did not open his eyes, he was gradually waking up. Countless memories of the battle in Heaven and Earth Valley surged into his mind. Finally, he saw a sacred Buddhist light in the dark void. There were many things that Su Zimo did not have time to think about when he was on the battlefield, fighting against cultivators and experts of the primordial races. However, at this moment, his consciousness returned and he gradually regained consciousness. There was an answer to many of his doubts. In the battle, a thought flashed through his mind that he seemed to have overlooked something. It was only now that he realized that he had not overlooked anything, but a person. Monk Daming. In the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple, Monk Daming had once told him that he no longer needed to use the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple as bait to refine his bloodline. That bloodline was no longer enough to satisfy his appetite. At that time, Su Zimo did not think too much about it. Now that he thought about it, a battlefield like Heaven and Earth Valley was the perfect place for Monk Daming to refine his blood. Chapter 1322. Even though he had already escaped from Heaven and Earth Valley, there were many things that made him shudder when he recalled them. Among them, the greatest discovery was the reappearance of the Fiend Technique. The Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra was a fiend technique that even the fiend sects were wary of. Monk Daming was not the only one who cultivated it. Even the Master of Hellfire Hall and Heavenly Secrets of Enigma Palace had cultivated it. Including him, there were already 4 people who had appeared. Of course, Su Zimo had sensed the terror of this fiend technique in time. After the battle at Thousand Demon Valley, he had not used it no matter how dangerous it was. He had even given up on the blood escape art. Qinglian's true body was in the Dao inheritance ground and had obtained more than 30 ancient inheritances. She even had a top-tier escape technique like Earth Crossing Golden Light. With so many escape techniques stacked together, they were no weaker than the blood escape technique. Initially, Su Zimo thought that the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley was a trap set by the various major sects and factions and the primordial 6 races against him and Night Spirit. But now that he thought about it, things were not that simple. Heavenly Secrets of Enigma Palace played an extremely important role in this trap. Or to be precise, this trap might have been set up by Heavenly Secrets for his cultivation of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Be it him, Night Spirit, the primordial 6 races, the various major sects and factions, or even the fight for the Dharma characteristic ranking, they were all his pawns. The cultivators of Enigma Palace were meticulous. Heavenly Secrets' cultivation was much higher than Lin Xuanji's, and he definitely had the ability to set up this shocking trap. Many variables appeared throughout the entire process, such as Shura Yen Beichen, Su Zimo's Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristic that surpassed the extreme realm and the descent of the true bodies of dragons. However, those variables were still within Heavenly Secrets' control. That was because the outcome that Heavenly Secrets wanted was an intense battle where more experts died and more bloodlines of experts were spilled. Unfortunately, another variable appeared later on and changed the situation completely. That variable was Monk Daming. Su Zimo wasn't sure when Monk Daming had arrived at Heaven and Earth Valley. Perhaps he had been hiding in Heaven and Earth Valley for a long time, but no one had discovered him. Throughout the entire process, Monk Daming did not appear. However, now that they thought about it carefully, they could vaguely catch some clues. The first time was when someone secretly attacked the Hall Master of Hellfire Hall. the Hall Master of Hellfire Hall had once fought with extreme fire. He wanted to activate the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra to recover his dermic powers and blood chi but failed. If no one had interfered, how could the Master of Hellfire Hall have failed? The second time was when someone broke through the spatial seal of Heaven and Earth Valley. Now that Su Zimo thought about it, the word break that sounded familiar to him was actually Monk Daming's voice. The reason why Monk Daming had enough time to find the spatial node of Heaven and Earth Valley's spatial seal and break it in one fell swoop was because he was uninvolved from the start. Only Monk Daming had such an ability. In the Transcendence realm, he had condensed 4 Transcendence aspects. Now that he was at the Conjoint Body realm and had fused 4 Transcendence aspects into his body, what sort of combat strength did he possess? The third time was when Heavenly Secrets was exposed for no reason and was hunted down by Yen Beichen. In the battle between the two of them, Heavenly Secrets wanted to refine his bloodline and counterattack to suppress Yen Beichen. However, he failed as well. Thereafter, Heavenly Secrets escaped far away and Yen Beichen chased after him. Monk Daming must have interfered behind this. The fourth time was when Su Zimo entered the dermic power vortex. D Fan attacked and shattered the spatial tunnel, causing turbulent void currents to surge in. At that time, a Buddhist light appeared in the dark and cold void and enveloped him. Monk Daming was probably the only one who could release the power of the Buddhist monasteries. Although Su Zimo escaped far away in the end and did not witness the final outcome of the battle in Heaven and Earth Valley, it was needless to say that Monk Daming was the biggest winner. Because of Su Zimo's relationship with Daming Monastery, Monk Daming had once let Su Zimo escape in the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple. He had also secretly broken through the spatial seal during the battle in Heaven and Earth Valley. However, all of that was under the premise that he would not be exposed. That was the reason why Monk Daming had not revealed himself the entire time, let alone appear to fight against the experts of the primordial 6 races. His ultimate goal was to refine the bloodline of Heaven and Earth Valley. Saving Su Zimo was only a matter of convenience. Su Zimo sighed internally and lamented. Heavenly Secrets came from Enigma Palace and hid behind the scenes to control everything. He used the experts of the world as chess pieces to set up this shocking scheme and schemed. However, he did not expect to benefit someone else. Someone's methods were even more brilliant than his. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. At the very most, Heavenly Secrets could only be considered as the mantis while Monk Daming was the oriole. Monk Daming was calm and composed. His talent was shocking and his combat strength was heaven-defying. The moment he returned, he schemed against the experts of the world. Nobody could escape from his schemes and even Heavenly Secrets suffered greatly. He had almost no weaknesses. Monk Daming was already so strong but he was still locked in the stone coffin for 40,000 years. What sort of existence was the person who locked him up? How terrifying was that person? Su Zimo lamented internally and tried his best to recall the scene of him in the void turbulence. The first to lose contact was the true bodies of the dragons. The true bodies of the dragons were the last to leap into the dermic power vortex. When the spatial tunnel shattered, they suffered the greatest impact and were swept away by the void turbulence, disappearing without a trace. Su Zimo believed that given the physique of the dragon's true bodies, even the void turbulence would not be able to devour them. However, if there was no opportunity, the true bodies of the dragons would probably float in the void turbulence forever, unable to return to Tianhuang mainland. At the very least, Su Zimo had not sensed the existence of the true bodies of the dragons yet. Su Zimo had called out to the true bodies of the dragons in his heart, but there was no response. There were only 3 possibilities. Firstly, the true bodies of the dragons were already dead. Secondly, the true bodies of the dragons were still unconscious and would naturally not respond. Thirdly, the true bodies of the dragons were still floating in the void turbulence. Regardless of the situation, it was not optimistic. Su Zimo thought of Night Spirit again. Under the impact of the void turbulence, he was separated from Night Spirit. Night Spirit's fate was unknown as well. Finally, Su Zimo recalled what he experienced before he fainted in the void turbulence. Placed in the dark and cold void, he had no sense of direction, space or time and could only float helplessly. Before long, he vaguely heard the sound of sutras being recited. He was extremely familiar with those sutras. It was the martial sutra that he created. Those sutras established a mysterious connection with him and were transmitted through a spatial node. Qinglian's true body floated in that direction subconsciously. Before long, his vision shone brightly and his body fell rapidly. The surrounding darkness and coldness had already vanished. The two completely different environments had a huge impact on Qinglian's true body. Furthermore, Qinglian's true body was injured to begin with and fainted completely from exhaustion. However, Su Zimo knew that he had already escaped from the void turbulence. Right now, he wanted to know where he was. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.